After a while, the two of them stood in front of the hospital gate. She walked behind the main guy, talking as they walked. Where did you study medicine? When he turned his head, she continued, I looked at your records, and you're just someone who likes to eat, drink, and cause trouble. How could you have this kind of skill? He sighed and complained to her. Not this again. Why are women always so curious? She felt a bit annoyed and said, Who's curious? I'm just worried you'll hurt my mom. Besides, you could ask me questions too. It's not just me who gets to ask. He quickly bent down, pointing at her chest and mockingly asked, Well, let me ask you, how did your chest get so big? I'm guessing 10 years ago you were flat like a runway. How did it suddenly grow like this? She got furious, shouting at him, Get lost. Just then, a figure slowly stepped out of a car nearby. It was Dr. White. Wait, isn't that Yi, the medicine god? What a coincidence. The main guy looked annoyed and said, Weren't you just avoiding me? Why are you suddenly out here now? Dr. Y awkwardly smiled and said, Not at all, I had something important to do. You have medicine god? This involves me. Dr. Y clasped his hands together, thinking to himself, This time, no matter what, I have to succeed. My little brother is important. Who cares about losing face? The man waved his hand in refusal, turned his face, and started to walk away. He even said, I told you already, I'm not a doctor. What's your problem got to do with me? Anyway, I'm going to enjoy the breeze. Dr. Wei, hearing this, was stunned. He ran over, knelt down, and grabbed the man's legs, pleading, Please, ye medicine god, I beg you to help me. You know this illness could affect the second half of my life, right? The man turned his head, glanced at the miserable figure clinging to his legs, and firmly repeated, I've told you before, I'm not a doctor. I have no medical ethics, and I'm in no way obligated to help you. The man quickly broke free from his grip. He linked arms with the woman beside him and began walking away, clearly uninterested in the situation. Let's go. After walking for a while, she leaned toward him and asked, Why didn't you help him? The man gave her a mysterious look and said, Why don't you let me touch you? She immediately snapped, Of course not, because I don't want to, creepy pervert. He picked up on her frustration and said, Exactly. I don't want to help him. If someone asks me for help, I'll do it. But it's exhausting, isn't it? He glanced back at the two figures disappearing in the distance. Dr. Y ground his teeth in anger. Wu Tian, just wait and see. The next morning at the hospital, a cheerful voice rang out. What? What did you say? The check can't be cashed? Really? That's right. The person who said this was Lu Fu. In front of him stood two of his underlings from before. One of them spoke up exactly, completely accurate. Liu Fu happily announced, The check's been torn into pieces. That kid won't get a single cent. After hearing that, Liu Fu felt relieved and said with satisfaction, Haha, this saves me 30 million right away. So good. Damn, it feels great. With that 30 million, I don't even know how many women I could enjoy. Why should I give it to him? One of his underlings with brown hair asked, Right, Liu Fu. What about Miss Chen Kei-sin? What's going on with her? Liu Fu replied, What you mean? What's going on? Of course, I'm still pursuing her. It's just going a bit slowly. The underling eager pulled out a small bottle from his pocket and said, Haha, I've got something that'll help speed things up for you. With this bottle, just one dose and you're good to go. Liu Fu seemed to have recognized what the bottle contained. He angrily pointed at the brown-haired man and shouted, Useless, what do you even know? Chasing women is about enjoying the results. I have the skill to use drugs, so why not just use money to find them? Fool. The brown-haired man yelled it so harshly that he fell to the floor, cursed under his breath. Damn it, you've used drugs plenty in the past too. Now you're acting all righteous. Liu Fu held the bottle of drugs in his hand and said, What about this bottle? I'll keep it for myself to use whenever I can't hold out anymore. He then turned to the blue-haired man and asked Chen Kei-sin, What's the situation like lately? The blue-haired man replied respectfully, She owes money to the bank and they're pressuring her hard. If Liu Fu could lend her some, she'd definitely be grateful to you. If we drop the doubts, it might even work out. Liu Fu rubbed his chin thoughtfully, then said, I just saved 30 million. I might consider lending her some, but like I said before, where's Wu Tian? That useless kid, he's very dangerous. We need to get rid of him. The two subordinates quickly responded, Yes, Liu Fu, we'll find him as soon as possible. Outside the door, the main character had been standing there listening, though no one knew exactly when he arrived. After the two henchmen finished speaking, the main character stepped in and said, I heard someone's been looking for me. His sudden voice startled everyone in the room. He continued, So I decided to come to you first. Liu Fu broke into a sweat and exclaimed, Yay, young Master Yi. Then gritting his teeth, he added, You bastard, you still dare to come find me. The main character immediately calmed him down. Liu Fu, we've known each other for a long time. Let's talk this through. But first, get your two dogs out of here. The two men immediately jumped up. Wu Tian, what are you calling a dog? The main character turned his head and growled, oh. The man with the green hair quickly stopped the brown-haired one, saying no matter what he says, he's still the young master of the Yi family. We can't afford to mess with him. Let's go. Once the two left, the main character spoke again. Liu Fu, I believe you know about the check. I need you to give me another one. Liu Fu, fuming, responded, no way. I've already given you what you should have gotten. The check was ruined because of you. Why are you still coming to me for more? He then pointed directly at the main character and asked, do you still have any shame? The main character stepped closer to where Liu Fu was lying, showing a wicked smile as he said, is that so? Have you heard of this backup video? If this video gets sent to the media, the truth about you, Liu Fu, do you think 30 million is enough to cover it? Liu Fu gritted his teeth and said, I will not sign a check for you, so you can forget about it. The main character heard this, shrugged, and turned to leave, saying, all right, I hope you won't regret this. Liu Fu jumped in shock, stammering, wait a minute. The main character paused, sensing that things were going according to plan, and Liu Fu trembled as he said, hand over the original video. A while later, the main character left the room with a check in hand. As he walked away, he thought to himself, Liu Fu, you sent someone to kill me. Do you really think 30 million can settle this? First, I'll spare your life, but if you ever run out of money, I'll be back to collect. The main character stormed off, leaving behind the two bodyguards outside the door who quickly rushed inside. Inside, Liu Fu clenched the blanket in anger, thinking, what does that bastard think I am? He just comes and goes as he pleases. This time, he had truly lost his patience. He angrily said, kill him, no matter who it is, just kill him. I'll pay 10 million. When his two subordinates heard the high price, their eyes lit up with interest, and they eagerly accepted the task, determined not to disappoint him. A little while later, at the Yi family estate in Dongcheng, where a luxurious and large villa stood, two men were talking in a room that looked like a study. The older man spoke up, are you sure the information is correct? The young man replied, it's correct. That bastard didn't die. Father, if not, I'll send someone to kill him. The father sat down in his chair, visibly frustrated, and said, no, we can't act impulsively right now. You focus on managing your own matters. He then asked, how's the progress with Ouyang Xing Yu? The son, looking displeased, responded, Xing Yu is different from regular women. She doesn't care about me at all and has even clearly rejected me. I have my pride too. The middle-aged man said seriously, sometimes a man's pride is very important, but other times it's worth less than a piece of paper. You should know that. The son hesitated before suggesting, what if? What if I drum her? Could I then get her to fall for me? The man tilted his head, his tone heavy as he asked, do you want to die? Meanwhile, in the study of the Yi family mansion, an elderly man was standing at a display table, studying something. Behind him stood a middle-aged man. The middle-aged man spoke loudly, why don't you let me bring him back? He's my son. The elderly man, still focused on his calligraphy, replied sternly, because he's not worthy of being part of the Yi family. This elderly man was Yi Hoteng, the head of the Yi family. The middle-aged man standing behind him was Yi Hengdong, also from the Yi family. Yi Hengdong continued, although he's not Yudong's biological son, he's still my only son. Father, I hope you can accept him and let me bring him home. The elderly man's face darkened. The brush in his hand pressed hard against the paper, causing ink to spill in a large blot across the sheet. He snapped, bring him back? Bring back a son who will destroy the family. Bring back a useless, uneducated child. The Yi family. No, I will not tolerate someone like him. The old man once again firmly stated, there's no need to talk about this anymore. As long as I'm here, it should never think about coming back. Yi Hengdong, feeling defeated, went back to his room. A little while later, the table was filled with beer bottles. He couldn't stop drinking. His wife saw him still drinking and came over to stop him, gently asking, drinking won't solve anything. Did the old man refuse again? Yi Hengdong's face was flushed from drinking too much. He silently turned away from her, avoiding her gaze. His wife came up behind him and said, it's all my fault. I couldn't give you a few children. Hearing this, he turned to her and said, I don't blame you. I just feel a little guilty about that child. I've wronged its mother. His wife spoke softly. Those things are all in the past. It's okay. Then she turned to face the door, her expression serious. There's something I need to tell you. His company really seems to be in trouble. You should take some time to look into it. He thought for a moment before responding, my son's company? How dare they go under? They're asking for trouble. Is it them again? His wife suddenly turned to him and said, don't speak out of turn if you don't have evidence. He was irritated, slammed his hand on the table, and snorted. Later that evening, in some tall building, the blonde woman named Keek Sin sighed and spoke to the young secretary beside her. Has the location been decided? The secretary quickly responded, yes, it's all set. Do you want to find a boyfriend to come with you? Keeksin paused for a moment, then asked thoughtfully, "A boyfriend? It's not like I don't have a fiancé. Why would I need to find a boyfriend?" The secretary hesitated and said, "But he's still a mystery, you know. And, well, you know how President Zhu is. He's just a greedy, lecherous pig." Keeksin suddenly stood up and turned around. The secretary spoke seriously. "I don't want to bring this up again. If I'm already engaged to that scumbag, I don't need any other man to protect me." She grabbed a folder and headed toward the door. After hearing this, the secretary seemed more and more uneasy. Where the hell did that bastard Wu Tian die anyway? The CEO is really something. It's not even his company, and yet he's still doing all this for that piece of trash. A little while later, the woman named Keeksin arrived at a luxurious dining room in a large hotel. Two men were already waiting for her at the table. "President Zhu," she immediately said, "Sorry I'm late." The man with red hair smiled warmly and said, "Haha, Miss Cheng, we understand. You must be busy with work. Come on, please sit down." As she was about to sit down, the other man wearing glasses quickly moved to pull out a chair for her. She asked, "Who is this person?" The red-haired man replied, "This is the chairman of Wang Bank, Wang Wu Tian. He just started a few days ago." The man wearing glasses sat closely beside her and poured water for her, making her feel both uncomfortable and uneasy. He reached over to shake her hand and said, "Miss Cheng, you truly are a woman who's no less than any man. Compared to you, we can't help but feel a bit inadequate." She responded politely, shaking his hand. "Oh, not at all. I've only gotten this far thanks to the support of the two of you." As they shook hands, she felt as if a bolt of lightning struck her. His grip was so tight, she couldn't pull her hand away. Unable to escape, she awkwardly said, "Chairman Wang, my hand." Hearing this, he was startled and immediately released her hand, saying, "Ah, I'm so sorry." The old man was a bit slow to react. With a strange look on his face, he raised the hand he had just held and licked it. "Say, I didn't expect Miss Cheng's hands to be so soft. I got a little distracted there. Please don't take offense." She fought to keep her disgust in check, feeling flustered as she quickly suggested, "Let's have the waiter bring the food and we can talk while eating." The red-haired man glanced at her secretary and said, "Miss Cheng, you should have your secretary step out. Some matters are not suitable for others to hear." Her secretary, standing behind her, thought to herself, "Please don't listen to them. Eva was kicked out. This is too dangerous." She seemed to sense the danger and quickly responded, "My secretary and I look like two sisters, so it's fine if she helps us pour the wine." The secretary behind her nodded in agreement, smiling. The red-haired man suddenly glared at her, his face turning serious as he asked, "What's wrong? Miss Cheng, don't you trust us?" He then started mocking, "There's no sincerity at all. I think we don't need to discuss this any further." After hearing this, her face darkened, and she spoke sharply to her secretary, "Go outside." The secretary was caught off guard and hesitated, saying, "CEOI." Feeling helpless, the secretary quietly left the room. Once the secretary was gone, the two men exchanged sinister looks, thinking to themselves, "Ha ha ha, finally, the obstacle is removed." After some time, the food was brought to the table. The red-haired man raised his glass and said, "Miss Cheng, I toast to you. You've only had a few drinks and your face is already flushed." He continued, "Miss Cheng, I originally thought you were a practical person, but I didn't expect you to be so different." She looked at him confused and asked, "Is there something wrong with my sincerity?" The man wearing glasses immediately leaned closer, holding his glass and spilling some wine. Look at this," he said. After clinking glasses, some wine remained in the other glass. She asked, "Isn't this how you drink wine? It's not about licking it. How can it be perfect without leaving a drop?" The man with glasses put on a displeased expression and said, "Are you implying that I don't understand the rules? If that's the case, then perhaps we should reconsider our future cooperation." Not letting him finish, she quickly poured more wine and said, "I misspoke, my apologies. Please allow me to make up for it with a drink." The two men laughed loudly. "Ha ha, very good. Miss Cheng, you are very generous." The man with glasses poured more wine into his glass and said, "Miss Cheng, let me toast to you again." She, feeling a bit flustered, accepted. "All right, Mr. Zhu, I was wondering if it's possible to extend the repayment time for the loan my company took." The red-haired man's expression turned twisted as he thought for a moment. After toasting her repeatedly, this woman was clearly starting to get drunk. Ha ha ha. But even in her tipsy state, there was a seductive charm about her that was hard to resist. His eyes slid down to her chest and thighs. He leaned in closer, speaking in a sinister tone, "Miss Cheng, as long as you're willing to drink with us tonight, extending the loan will be no problem." After hearing this, she resolutely downed another glass. "Then I'll leave it in your hands, Mr. Zhu." An hour later, the table was littered with empty wine bottles. The man with glasses, now red in the face from drinking, slurred, "Miss Cheng, come on, let's have one more drink." She felt a little lightheaded. Her alcohol tolerance had reached its limit, and if she drank any more, she'd be fully drunk. She stood up, placed her glass on the table, and said, "Excuse me, I need to use the restroom." After she entered the bathroom, she washed her face. Behind her, the secretary, looking worried, advised, "CEO, please don't drink anymore. If you keep going like this, something bad is going to happen." As she washed her face, she replied, "It's fine. I can handle it." Hearing this, the secretary, irritated, walked out. "You're really driving me crazy. I'll wait for you outside." Once the secretary left, she looked at herself in the mirror, deep in thought. Is it worth it? Putting up with all this because of an uncouth guy who can't even be bothered to care for a fiancé who doesn't even show interest. Is this really worth it? She wiped the remaining water off her face, continuing her thoughts. No, that's not right. Even though the company is his, I've built it up with my own hands. No matter what, I have to make sure things are handled properly, even if it means drinking until my stomach bleeds tonight. After a moment, she calmly returned to the dining table. With a friendly smile, she said, "Sorry to keep you waiting." The man wearing glasses spoke up. "I was talking to Chairman Zhu, and honestly, it's not proper to keep serving drinks to a woman like you." He then handed her a glass of wine, saying, "How about this? Let's have one last drink together. After we finish this, we won't drink anymore." She smiled, clearly relieved. "Really?" She took the glass and drank it all. "Thank you both for your sincere efforts on my behalf. With that said, I'll raise my glass in respect." She drank eagerly, trying to finish the wine in her glass. The two men exchanged a creepy, knowing smile. Once she finished, she cheerfully said, "If we're drinking, let's stop at the right point. So everyone, eat up. No matter what, we need to eat our fill." Before she could finish her sentence, she suddenly jolted, her face turning red. She hugged her head in distress. "Wait, something's wrong with the wine in my glass." She shot a sharp glance at the two men, her eyes filled with suspicion, and said, "You two perverts actually dared to drug me." Everything around her seemed to spin, and as she waved her hand, she accidentally knocked over a bowl. Panicking, she stood up and tried to leave. "Sorry, I need to use the restroom for a moment." She struggled, trying to stay upright while feeling her way along the wall, desperately trying to get out. "I can't stay here. The farther I get, the better." She felt like she was about to collapse when a man caught her. The man was the main character. He supported her, then smiled gently and said, "I didn't expect us to meet like this." Back at the table, the older man with glasses remarked, "Why is she taking so long? Did she run off or something?" The red-haired man replied, "If that's the case, she's quick to react. She must have realized the drug is kicking in." Both of them waited, but soon the older man with glasses grew impatient and went outside to check. He muttered to himself, "We can't let her escape." Meanwhile, Wu Tian had helped his fiancée into a bath. Cheng Kik-sin slowly began to regain consciousness, looking confused. Wu Tian gently patted her head, comforting her. "You must have been through a lot of humiliation, haven't you?" However, Wu Tian felt a bit helpless because he didn't have the antidote for this symptom. He still needed the medicine, but the delivery hadn't arrived yet. In his past life, he never even had a girlfriend, and now he had a wife. This felt so strange. At that moment, Kik-sin suddenly hugged Wu Tian tightly and pulled him into the water. Wu Tian noticed the large size of Kik-sin's chest and immediately felt the pressure. "Holy shit, how's anyone supposed to handle this?" Kik-sin, now losing her composure, said, I want it. Wu Tian shouted, "Stop, I'm not the type to take advantage of the situation." Wu Tian silently told himself, "This damn body of mine is starting up again, but it's hard to resist." He waved his hand, closed his eyes, and tried to calm himself, thinking, don't get hard, stay calm. But his little buddy wasn't listening. It roared to life, strong and uncontrollable. Wu Tian, feeling helpless, had no choice but to use some kind of aid, swallowing a pill. Immediately, his little buddy went from an aggressive wolf to a tiny puppy. Wu Tian sighed in relief. Thankfully, his willpower was strong enough. But Kik-sin, still in front of him, acted shamelessly, saying, "Please, I beg you, please satisfy me." Wu Tian still couldn't understand how those bastards managed to drug her to the point where she thought like this. Suddenly, there was a knock on the door, and Wu Tian quickly jumped up. "Finally, you're here?" It turned out that the delivery had arrived. He quickly prepared the medicine. For now, this was all he had to work with. Although the effect wouldn't be very strong, it was better than nothing. After verifying the medicine, he took it into the bathroom where Kik-sin was lying. But this medicine had to be applied to specific pressure points, meaning she would need to undress for it to be effective. Sorry about this, he thought. Half an hour of groaning later, Kik-sin had finally stopped moving and was lying still. Wu Tian couldn't help but think if Wang Fansai hadn't warned him, Kik-sin might have been in serious trouble. Wu Tian really was a jerk, wasn't he? And yet, somehow, he had ended up in this body. Once Kik-sin fell into a deep sleep, Wu Tian quietly left. Before he went, he reminded her, Rest up. Don't worry about anything else. I'll take care of it. The scene shifted to the dining room, where two directors were still drinking and chatting, completely ignoring her. Let's eat, one of them said. Once we fill our stomachs, we'll find a place to unwind. The red-haired man spoke up. Mr. Wang, you don't need to worry. She'll be back soon. If not, her company will go under. The man with glasses chuckled and added, in that case, I'll play first. I'm the eldest, so I get to enjoy the fresh goods. The red-haired man shook his head. That's not how we do it. We need to take turns until she begs us, completely worn out. After saying that, both of them laughed in a creepy way. Ha ha, when we team up, we can't even imagine how loud she'll scream. At that moment, Wu Tian walked in to join the fun. Hello, guys. He then flashed a smile that was as bright as a flower. What's so funny? Mind if I join in? The two of them were a bit surprised when they saw Wu Tian. Who are you? Wu Tian didn't say anything. He simply grabbed the bottle of liquor on the table and slammed it into the red-haired man's head. Coldly, he said, you shouldn't mess with this guy's woman. The guy with the glasses immediately yelled, who the hell are you? I didn't touch your woman. The red-haired man, also furious, said, how dare you lay a hand on me? You don't know who you're dealing with. Wu Tian didn't respond. Instead, he grabbed a plate and with a loud crack, smashed the guy's head into it, breaking the plate. The red-haired man wasn't going to back down either, so he headbutted the plate right back. In just a second, both of them were clutching their heads in pain. Damn it, he actually dared to lay hands on both of us. The old man with glasses, furious and reckless, charged forward, shouting, you really want to die, huh? Take my punch. But before he could even show off his cat-style kung fu, he suddenly froze in place. Why is my body so stiff? Immediately after, he collapsed to the ground. The red-haired man lying nearby also felt his body lose all strength. Wu Tian calmly picked up the hot pot and said softly, this pot of boiling broth just got brought out. It's still steaming hot. Better blow on it while you eat. He even made a scary face and added, I wonder what would happen if I poured this on you guys. The two men were hit with a shock like lightning striking on a clear day. The hot broth spilled down and they screamed in panic. The two of them quickly got a taste of the hot soup, blowing on it while shouting in pain. You bastard, I swear, I'll get you for this. You really have no idea who you're messing with, do you? Wu Tian threw a plate at his head, saying, I don't really care. Then he asked, do you know who I am? No, I don't. Wu Tian tossed another plate at his head and said, I'm the medicine god, and you don't even know that. After a while, Wu Tian started to feel tired. Seems like even being the medicine god doesn't make me good at all this heavy stuff. Beating up these scumbags is exhausting. He then turned to the man with glasses again and asked, so, do you know who I am now? The man, terrified, replied, the medicine god. Medicine god, please, I beg you, spare me. Wu Tian smirked and asked, then let me ask you, do you like sword fighting? The man immediately shook his head. No, I don't. Wu Tian, pleased with the clever answer he had received, smiled and handed him a plate, saying, it should be to your liking. The man, looking quite pitiful, replied, I like it, I really do. Upon hearing this, Wu Tian took out a packet of sun powder, tossed it onto the man, and said, you two will be together soon. I wish you both happiness. A few strange noises soon filled the room. The staff member could hardly believe his ears. What was that bizarre sound? As he opened the door, his jaw dropped in shock. Even the food he was holding fell from his hands without him realizing. A loud scream echoed down the hotel hallway. Several nearby staff members rushed over to see what was going on. They too stood in stunned silence, their mouths hanging open. It turned out the two men were engaged in some very inappropriate behavior. The staff members couldn't help but comment, wow, they say older people get more daring, but this is something else. With a head like that, he's still doing this. We need to record this. This will definitely be more popular than some TikTok idol. Meanwhile, in the surveillance room, only two people were watching the camera feed. The hotel manager pointed to the screen and said to the female police officer, look over there. It turned out that Wu Tian had unknowingly made his way into the camera's view. The female officer clenched her fist in anger. How could this Wu Tian be so shameless? The next day, at Dongcheng Bank, Wu Tian returned and approached the staff member, saying, Xiaoxu, how have you been lately? Do you mind calling me by my English name? She blushed and replied, thank you, Wu Tian, for what you did the other day. Wu Tian smiled and joked, thank you, is that all? How about you join me for dinner tonight? She seems to have ovulated already, he said. That's good. After work, I'll update you. Then she added, if there's nothing else, I need to get back to work. Wu Tian continued to flirt with a smile, unaware that an older woman was waiting behind him. The woman angrily said, hey bro, if you don't have any money, go somewhere else. Are you really giving her a check to cash to? Wu Tian ignored her and handed the check to the staff member's younger sister. Use this check to see how much money you can withdraw, and we can go out tonight. She held the check a little worried. A check for 30 million yuan. Is this for real? Meanwhile, Kixin had finally regained consciousness. She was groggy, not sure where she was. This didn't feel like her home. Then she immediately remembered the past events and looked down at her clothes. Why were they? Kixin, desperate, started crying. Could it be that those two jerks really did something to me? But then she remembered something didn't seem right. She checked herself again. There was no blood. Could someone have saved her? She still couldn't remember who had rescued her. The images in her mind were hazy, but they resembled Wu Tian. Could it have been him? Did he come to save me? But she quickly dismissed the thought. How could it be him? He's probably somewhere off the grid. No one knows where he is. Kixin picked up her phone and listened to the recording she secretly made yesterday. She could only hear Wu Tian's voice as he was calling someone to buy various types of drugs. The voice sounded similar to her useless husband, but there was something a little off about it. Then there were some lewd words that came from Kixin herself. I want it, please satisfy me, and other similar phrases that were hard to hear. Wu Tian tried to resist, but he still said something that made Kixin blush. This is really uncomfortable. Should I touch it? Damn, I'm getting a nosebleed. Could it really have been that jerk? But he's a pervert. And when a girl offers herself like that, he wouldn't be able to resist. It didn't matter who he was anyway. Knowing his identity wouldn't change anything. Right now, no place other than a bank could have that much money. Suddenly, the secretary rushed in. CEO, she said, holding Kixin and looking worried. Did those two jerks do anything to you? I have already called the police. Kixin smiled and reassured her. I'm fine. Someone came to save me. The secretary was suspicious. Really? Someone saved you? Then she showed Kixin her phone. Those two are on the front page. Kixin was stunned. Could it be that the man from last night had done this to them? The secretary added, suddenly, the company released a large sum of money, about 29 million yuan. Kixin asked out of curiosity, was it from a customer? That can't be right. We don't have any clients who owe us that much money. Kixin fell into deep thought as she wondered who could have transferred the money. At that moment, the police arrived and asked her to come to the station to help with the investigation into the two men who had been injured. Meanwhile, at Wu Tian's place, someone knocked on his door early in the morning. Who the heck is knocking this early? He muttered. When he opened the door, he was surprised to find a female officer standing there. She looked at him with disgust and said, You're such a freak. Couldn't you put on a little more clothing? Wu Tian, feeling proud, replied, Did you check out my body or something? Why is your face so red? The officer was speechless. Just come with us to the station. We suspect you're involved in an assault. Wu Tian teased, You want me at the station day and night? With our relationship, can't you make an exception? Hurry up and get dressed. Fine, I'll put on pants right now. He grabbed a pair of pants, put them on while turning his back to the female officer. She yelled angrily, You perverted bastard. Turn around already, or I'll break your toys. A few minutes later, Xiao Mai approached her car and said, Get in the car. He quickly turned away. Who wants to get in a car like this? You go ahead. I've got my own ride. He walked off, leaving Xiao Mi fuming behind him. It's only been a few days, and this bastard doesn't even appreciate his own car. Then she was shocked when she saw him pushing his bike toward her. Is this really your bike? He cheerfully introduced it to her. Looks good, right? I actually found it by chance. I had to pay a high price to get it. Honestly, even if you offered me 5 million, I wouldn't sell it. She just stared at him, eyes wide with surprise. Looks good, and you still paid such a high price. This thing is worth 5 million and you wouldn't trade it. He got on the bike and started pedaling, looking at her thoughtfully. You wouldn't understand. One day this will be a cultural antique. It'll be very valuable. He rode off. Let's go. She shouted, wait a second. People walking by laughed when they saw the two of them. This bike is so old-fashioned. It's from 10 years ago. How does anyone still ride it? Where? Don't tell me he's trying to fool people. Doesn't he worry about riding that broken-down bike? And look, there's another bike following him. Probably the same owner. Xiao Mei couldn't help but blush in embarrassment. This is so embarrassing. Later, at the police station, when she saw him locking the bike, she said, You're leaving it right at the entrance of the station. Are you worried about it being stolen? He sighed when he heard her. She clearly didn't understand its value, so he didn't bother to explain it to her. She snapped, I don't even want to hear about your knowledge. They walked into the interrogation room, and Xiao Mei pointed at the door. Let's go in. Inside, there was another person who was being questioned with him. He walked in casually. All right. When Kixin saw him inside, she froze. Wu Tian exclaimed, Chang Kixin. Wu Tian, curious, asked, How have you been? Cheng Keat-sin replied, "Do you want me to be sick or something?" He hesitated and said, "I didn't mean that." She burst into tears, her voice filled with anger as she shouted, "Then what do you mean? You disappear without a word. What do you think I am? A toy? You Wu Tian Keat-sin, what do you think I am in your eyes?" He hesitated again and said, "I'm really sorry." At that moment, a police officer stepped inside and said, "You two, there's family conflict here. Go home and talk it out. Let's focus on the matter at hand first." After some time of questioning, they arranged to meet outside a cafe. After a long silence, Yi Wu Tian spoke up, "Are you happy being engaged to me?" Keat-sin replied, "Before I answer your question, can you answer mine first? Did you save you that day? Please be honest with me. I want to hear the truth." He answered, "Yes, it was me. I saved you by accident." She continued, "How did you know I was there? In that situation, why didn't you take advantage of me?" He answered her questions. "I found you by chance. And if I had taken advantage of you, wouldn't that make you hate me even more?" He spoke in a regretful tone. "I'm truly sorry for all the pain I've caused you." Keat-sin, a bit embarrassed, said, "No matter what, thank you." At the same time, she thought to herself, "Is this really the same fiancé I had before?" She continued, "By the way, what was going on with those pills you gave me? I didn't even know you were trained in medicine." Yi Wu Tian replied, "I came across a traditional remedy by chance, and it happened to be able to counteract the effects of that aphrodisiac." He then looked her in the eye. "You still haven't answered my question. Are you happy being engaged to me?" Her eyes filled with tears that were about to spill over. She said, "Happy? How can I be happy? You flirt day and night, even abandoning your fiancé and disappearing without a trace. You're asking me if I'm happy? How can I be happy?" He calmly replied, Keat-sin, let's break off the engagement." She looked at him confused and asked, What? What are you saying?" He answered, "Being with someone like me, you won't be happy. Let's end the engagement. The company will be yours. That's what you truly deserve." Just as she was about to stand up to talk to him, he got up and left, but not before saying, "In 2 days, I'll visit your house to officially discuss this." When Keat-sin got home, her mother worriedly asked, "Mai, what's wrong? Since you came back, you've been like this, looking so absent-minded. Are you feeling sick?" But Keat-sin just stayed silent. Her father, also concerned, asked, Mai, did something happen?" She quietly responded, "He said he wants to break off the engagement." Her parents froze at her words. They asked, "You Wu Tian really said that? What about the company?" Keat-sin replied, "The company will go to me." Her father happily said, "That's great. Ha ha, at least that guy has a low conscience. Whether the company is there or not doesn't matter. The important thing is that you can break off the engagement. That's the best part." Her mother added, Mai, your little sister is coming back tonight. Let's all celebrate together." Keat-sin, feeling exhausted, said, "I'm not feeling well. You all go ahead and talk first." Her mother turned to her husband, worried. "Cheng, don't you think our daughter looks like she's not happy? She should be happy, right? Why does she look so lost?" She spoke with a sad expression. "He's changed. He's not the same as before. I struggled so much to get away from that bastard, so why am I the one who's unhappy now?" The next day, the couple was shocked to see Yi Wu Tian riding a bike. They thought, Yi Wu Tian is riding a bike again. He wouldn't even look at a bike worth less than $1 million before, and now he's riding one like this. A worn-out old bike? Keat-sin was also surprised, thinking of herself, he really has changed. Getting to the point, he said, "Uncle Cheng, Aunt Cheng, I won't say much. I'm here today to break off the engagement." He continued, "I'm not worthy of Keat-sin. Since we got engaged, she has suffered too much. Today, this unreasonable marriage should come to an end." The couple thought for a while. Keat-sin's father spoke up, At least you know yourself. What are you going to do now? How are you going to go back to the Yi family?" He tiredly replied, "What's there to go back to at the Yi family? Do they even deserve it?" Her father asked, "The Yi family won't take you back. Then why do you want to give the company to Keat-sin?" He answered, "She deserves it. She's been managing the company all along, and I haven't taken a single part of it. Keat-sin will sign these papers, and the company will be transferred into her name." Keat-sin said, "Put it down for now. I'll look at it when I have time." Her father anxiously shouted, Mai, this is essentially giving the company to you for free. You and Yi Wu Tian were just engaged. He never even touched you, and the company is clearly benefiting." She replied, "Do you think I don't know what I'm doing? Yi Wu Tian, did you transfer that money to the company?" Yi Wu Tian answered, "Yes." She continued, "If the engagement is being called off, why are you doing this?" He responded, "Think of it as compensation or even as atonement." She angrily shouted, "What's this supposed to be? A way to make up for things? 29 million yuan and you didn't even blink before just handing it over to me like it's some kind of atonement?" Her father, terrified by their conversation, asked, "What? 29 million yuan?" Well, after hearing that, he suddenly had a heart attack from the shock. Her mother rushed over to help him and screamed, "Medicine! Quick, get the medicine!" Her mother anxiously asked her husband, "Chang, why are you so worked up? Did the doctor tell you not to get excited? How could you forget?" He, sweating profusely, answered, "So, this really is 29 million yuan just like that." She worriedly said, "Dad, we need to go to the hospital." He calmly replied, "Don't rush. Let me try something first." Kixin, unable to believe what was happening, was stunned by Wu Tian's ability. She thought to herself, he even knows how to do acupressure. Where did he learn all this? He wrote the symptoms on a piece of paper and calmly said, chest, back, and waist pain, cold limbs, drowsiness, fatigue, weakness needs treatment. Use white fungus, ginger, and licorice, 10 grams each, 1,500 ml of water boiled down to 500 ml. Take 3 times a day for a week, and that should do it. Exhausted, he added, what do you think? Look at the prescription, don't look at me. Her mother was shocked by his skills. She asked, Xiao Yi, are you a doctor? When did you learn such good medical skills? He upwardly replied, I found a medical book and taught myself. I have something urgent, so I'll go ahead. Mr. Cheng suddenly thought, could this kid be pretending to be a harmless little pig to catch the big bad tiger? She picked up the file, looked at it, and thought, interesting. I want to see what tricks he's got up his sleeve. He wants me to sign this. I'll stick to my decision and refuse to sign. Wang Fansai looked at the file, and Wu Tian thought the Yi family in Dongcheng is considered one of the top families. Although this body's original owner appears flashy and rebellious on the outside, in reality, the family has been under a lot of pressure and hasn't admitted it. Still, since I'm using this guy's body, I have to help him get justice. He continued, if I don't do this, I'm afraid the Yi family will come after me. He shifted the focus to the family's inheritance. Right now, even the company that was supposed to be passed on to the daughter-in-law was gone. No money left. Trying to deal with the Yi family would be pointless. The most urgent thing now was to make money. Scene shifted to Cake Sin's company. The employees were surprised to see Yi Wu Tian back. They said, wow, CEO Yi is back. It's been so long since we saw him. This guy didn't go to a nightclub for fun and actually came back to the office. He went to Cake Sin's office, threw open the door and said, has the document been signed yet? I'm here to pick up my things. She grabbed his hand tightly and said, Boss Yi, I don't have any documents here. There are some important clients who want to meet. Come with me. He was confused and shouted, huh? What? She pulled his hand and said, come on. He worriedly thought, what does this woman want? Pretending to be clueless? If she's giving the company away for free, I don't need it. The secretary thought anxiously, no way. The CDO has always hated this useless guy. Why would he want to take him to meet clients? At some bar in the city, looking at Cake Sin from behind, Yi Wu Tian chuckled and said, oh, I didn't even notice my fiancée. She's got such a great figure. She's got a nice butt and nice legs. Ha ha, it's a bit of a shame that we broke off the engagement. She shyly shouted, hey, are you done looking? Let me tell you, my clients are very well-mannered, and today you're helping me out. Don't tell me you can't hold your liquor. You used to drink a lot with your friends back in the day, and the girls. She urged him, hurry up. He replied, all right, all right. Boss Zhang noticed the 3 of them and said, you're here, huh? He was Zhang Jianyi, the CEO of the largest corporation in Huaxia. When he saw Cake Sin, he said, Miss Cheng, you're still as dazzling as ever. Come, sit down. He noticed the 8 bottles of white liquor on the table and, surprised, said, damn, 8 bottles of white liquor on the table. What's this guy planning? Trying to get us drunk and steal our women? He continued, it seems Miss Cheng came prepared. If that's the case, let me be direct. If you want to do business with me, you first need to have a strong tolerance for alcohol. A person's character is less important than their ability to handle liquor. She whispered in Yu Wu Tian's ear, show him your skills. Drink with him, or our business deal might not go well. He hesitated, muttering to himself, is my tolerance really good enough? Boss Zhang added, all right then, to avoid anyone saying I'm making things difficult for women, I'll make an exception today. The 3 of you can drink together. If you can beat me, you win. She asked excitedly, really? He, still worried, said, hey, hold on a second. He continued, how big is this deal? Is it really worth risking everything over? She replied, 10 million. Other companies are eyeing it too. Without this deal, the company could go under. We absolutely need to secure it. With a slight grin, Yu Wu Tian said, is that so? Boss Zhang, if you want to play, let's play big. 10 million isn't enough to play with. Let's go for 50 million. What do you think? She froze for a moment, thinking 50 million? Is he just here to cause trouble? I wish I'd never brought him along. Boss Zhang smiled smugly and said, ha ha, this is interesting. As long as you can drink these 2 bottles of liquor and not get drunk, I'll add 5 million each time you have another shot. How does that sound? She anxiously explained, Boss Shang, don't take what he says seriously. He's just joking. At the same time, she worried in fear. This is bad. If Wu Tian gets drunk with his temper, he'll definitely lead everyone here to look for women. That would ruin our exclusive deal. Boss Shang's face darkened as he said, Miss Chang, do you doubt my sincerity? She hurriedly tried to clear up the misunderstanding. What? No, of course not. Boss Shang, you know how it is. His tolerance for alcohol is really low. Don't even think about 2 bottles. He wouldn't be able to handle one. He anxiously thought to himself, do I really have such a low tolerance? Then he said, let me give it a try. Sometimes you have to take a risk. She hesitated and replied, you. Boss Shang curiously asked her, Miss Cheng, who is this gentleman? He smiled happily and introduced himself. I'm Wu Tian, her fiancé. But not for long. Tomorrow, Miss Cheng and I will break off our engagement. The secretary listened to the story and thought anxiously and curiously. Regarding the broken engagement, Wu Tian took the initiative to speak up. What exactly happened here? Keeksin also thought about it with concern and curiosity. Is it really that unbearable for him? Does he have to rush to break the engagement? Or is there another woman outside? He continued, Why, ma'am, prepare the new contract. I apologize in advance. I need to step out for a moment to use the bathroom and I'll be right back. Wang Man agreed after a brief hesitation. Okay. After returning, Wu Tian said, Sorry to keep you waiting, Boss Shang. You should take a good look and don't blink. It's been so long since I had so much to drink at once. Keeksin was worried and asked, Are you okay? Is everything all right? He shyly replied, If you don't let go, I might really be in trouble. She thought curiously, since when did he start pretending to be so serious? Boss Shang clapped his hands happily and said, Bro Yi, you've got great alcohol tolerance. I can see you're still going strong. Next, let's have a bottle. Consider it 3 shots. I want to learn a little about your drinking skills. He laughed and said, Boss Shang, you're generous. I won't be stingy, as you wish. Keeksin, still worried about Wu Tian's safety, reminded him, Take care of yourself. If it's too much, don't push it. Drinking like this could cost you your life. He happily asked her in return, Keeksin, are you concerned about me? She hesitated for a moment, then replied, Am I looking after you? You'd better drink yourself to death. She then happily said, 15 million in hand, the company is saved. Both of them said at the same time, CEO Yi is really amazing. Wu Tian continued, feeling pleased with himself, and said, Boss Shang, don't change your mind when the 50 million comes through. Boss Shang excitedly replied, Bro Yi, you've got great tolerance for alcohol. Today, I admit defeat. I'm convinced. I'll sign the contract and get the 50 million to you. She happily hugged him and said, How can you be so impressive? Tell me, how did you manage to pull it off? Wang Man, with admiration in her eyes, said, CEO Yi, you were so cool just now. He hesitated, then said, Honestly, I have a secret. There's a god of wine looking out for me. The scene shifts to Cheng Keeksin's office. Once back in her office, she couldn't help but wonder, is he really my fiancé? Even when he was drunk, he didn't take advantage of me. His medical skills suddenly became so amazing, and his alcohol tolerance is off the charts. Should I really sign this aniline agreement? Suddenly, her phone rang. She picked up and said, Hello, senior brother. Are you back? At a restaurant somewhere in the city they met. Oh Yang Hao said, Little sister, I've heard about everything that's been happening with you. How are you holding up lately? He was Oh Yang Hao. She blinked back tears, stammering, Senior brother, he interrupted her gently. If you want to cry, go ahead. Don't force yourself. Listening to him, she burst into tears, crying loudly as she explained the situation. That bastard, he pulled this disappearing act. The company is relying on just one person to hold everything together. How can it possibly be okay? Hugh. Ao Yang Hao took out a handkerchief and tried to wipe away her tears. He said, Little sister. She pushed his hand away and replied, Thank you, senior brother, but I can handle it myself. He anxiously thought to himself, She instinctively pushes me away. He spoke again, Little sister, I came back to the country because of you. Don't worry about that fiancé of yours. Why don't we go somewhere else and start a new life? Keeksin hesitated and said, Senior brother, this. Ao Yang Hao shouted, I know that fiancé of yours is a scumbag. He's not worth your trust. She wearily replied, Senior brother, can we change the topic? He angrily responded, No, we have to talk about this. Back in school, I didn't seize the chance to confess, but this time, I won't let go. Keeksin, do you love me or not? She nervously said, Senior brother, please don't push me. Can you stop? He angrily continued, How long are you going to keep dragging this out? If you keep waiting forever, it'll be over. You're following that trash. Don't you see you can't be happy with him? She tiredly said, I don't know. I'm going now. He chased after her, trying to hold her back. Wait a minute, little sister. She walked straight home. When she got there, her mother asked, Keek-sin, you're back? Oh, by the way, Yang Hao came by this afternoon. Did he call you? She replied, I'm going to take a bath. Her mother, both worried and curious, said, What's wrong, sweetie? You look upset. Did Wu Tian make you angry again? Yang Hao came back. You should be happier, right? Chang replied, I don't know. Let her have some peace. In the bath, she really thought to herself, Senior brother was right. I've always wanted to end this ridiculous marriage, but why did I turn down senior brother? What exactly happened? Could it be that I started to like Wu Tian? No way, absolutely not. How could I like someone like him, a spoiled rich kid? The next day, as she walked, she couldn't stop thinking about it. She hadn't slept well the night before because of these thoughts. She decided to focus on her work for now. When she saw Yang Hao and the bouquet of flowers, she was surprised and asked, Senior, what's this? He smiled and said, Little sister, these are for you. Are you free at lunch? Let's have a meal together. She hesitated and replied, Senior, I. Just then, Wu Tian appeared and said, What are you doing, drinking tea so early in the morning? Ah, I hope I'm not interrupting anything. Yang Hao turned to Wu Tian and said, Mr. Yi, I'd like to talk to you for a moment. Wu Tian smiled, his face full of anger, and asked, Do you know who she is? He fumed, Dan, you're pursuing my so-called fiancé right in front of me. At least wait until I've officially broken off the engagement before making a move. Yang Hao, clearly irritated, shot back. So what if I do? He shouted. Do you even remember you're supposed to be her fiancé? What have you done for her over the past year? Are you really fit to be her fiancé? Wu Tian angrily replied, What I do has nothing to do with you. Why are you butting in, acting like you need to teach me something? Who do you think you are? He replied, I'm Yang Hao. I have no right to demand anything from you, but maybe I have the right to pursue her. As a man, you should let her go and let her chase her own happiness. He sarcastically responded, I've already put the power of choice in her hands. Don't you know that? Then you pushed their faces close together and added, If she hasn't told you anything, it looks like she doesn't like you. Hearing this, Yang Hao immediately became angry and shouted, Wu Tian, I warn you, if you lay a finger on her, don't blame me. I will be polite to you. Wu Tian, equally furious, rolled up his sleeves and said, What do you think you are? If you got the guts, cut at me. Do you think I'm scared of you? Keek-sin, worried, spoke up, Guys, please stop arguing. Wu Tian looked at her and said, Do you really think I'm fighting for you? Then, without saying another word, he turned and walked into the company. She stood behind, confused, thinking to herself. His eyes were filled with disappointment. Why did her heart feel like it was being squeezed? He stood nearby, indifferent, and turned to her with a suggestion. What's going on? Hey, how about we have lunch together this afternoon? She declined, Sorry, I might be busy this afternoon. I have work to do. You should head home. A little while later, she showed up at Wu Tian's office. As soon as he saw her, he asked, Is something wrong? She nervously asked, Are you mad? He didn't show any expression and asked, Is this about what happened earlier? He responded, I'm really angry, extremely angry, but I don't want to talk about it. If there's nothing else, please leave. She asked, Why are you so upset? Isn't this what you wanted all along? At that moment, he coldly replied to her, It doesn't matter to me what happens. I only care about when you'll sign the annulment papers. This is the last time I'm coming to this company. You can leave now. She was stunned, almost on the verge of tears, and said, Wu Tian, what exactly you see me as? Am I just some flood or wild animal? Is this how far you go to avoid me? A few hours later, he walked out of the company, finally done with his work. Home? I'm going home, he muttered. Just then, Yang Hao suddenly appeared in front of him, and he immediately sighed, Shit, is this guy not afraid of dying? Showing up right here. At that moment, a red sports car zoomed past, forcing him to step back. The car stopped, and the person inside called out, Well, if it isn't the useless little brat from the Yi family. Long time, no see. Yang Hao quickly took the chance to greet him. Young Master Yi, you're quite timely. Young Master Yi responded, Didn't expect young Master Yang to be here. Then he pointed to where Chen Keek-sin was standing and asked, Young Master Yang, are you trying to flirt with her? Keek-sin suddenly froze, and he let out a frustrated, Ha. Just as he was about to leave, Keek-sin stopped him, asking, Are you leaving? He brushed her hand away and said, This isn't my business. Why should I stay and be a third wheel? The young master of the Yi family appeared, blocking their way, and said, Hold on, you useless kid. Don't you have anything to say when you see the future heir of the Yi family? Wu Tian calmly replied, The Yi family. You as the heir? What's so great about that? Do you really think the Yi family is something to be proud of? Do you think I'm upset about being kicked out? Go back and tell the Yi family and those people. It won't be long before they'll have a new leader. When that happens, the Yi family will belong to me. Wu Tian is the Yi family." She was surprised by his words. She thought he used to cower and avoid the Yi family whenever he saw them. Now he's daring to talk like this to Yi Yan. Liang Hao was also taken aback by Wu Tian's words. He thought, wait a minute, this person isn't as useless as the rumors say. I'll need to investigate him more thoroughly. Yi Xiaojia angrily shouted, "You bastard, are you stupid? You think you can take down the Yi family? Damn it, with a useless kid like you." He calmly responded, "You'll find out soon enough. Someone like you, high and mighty, will be kicked out of the Yi family by a useless little brat. At that point, the look of despair on your face will be something everyone will look forward to. Everything that belongs to me, I will take back. The Yi family will be mine from now on." She was surprised by Wu Tian's words and said, "This is Wu Tian. Why is he so handsome?" Yi Xiaojia angrily retorted, "Enough with the pretending. I'll kill you sooner or later." He thought to himself, "First, I need to build a relationship with Liang Hao. I'll deal with you later, you bastard." Liang Hao arrived at Qi Xin's place. He said, "Sis, what did he mean when he said the power to choose is in your hands? What's going on?" She replied, "I just remembered there's some work I still need to take care of. I have to go back to the company first." He shouted Qi Xin. At that moment, Yi Xiaojia arrived at his place. "Liang Xiaojia, I know all about this. I heard that you bastard took the initiative to break off the engagement and even wanted to leave the family to flirt with Cheng Qi Xin. I can help you with that." After hearing his offer, Liang Hao became interested and said, "Tell me more." Back at the office, Qi Xin nervously asked, "Wu Tian, what is really going on with him?" She silently thought, "Do I really want to break off the engagement?" Suddenly, Wang Man appeared, shouting, "CEO, don't hold on to this anymore." She continued, "Wu Tian is not the right match for you. Your senior brother isn't bad either. Even if he changes, it won't change the fact that he's a coward and a troublemaker. Maybe what he's been doing lately is just a momentary outburst, but while he's still not fully changed, you should make up your mind quickly." She sighed and added, "Let me think about it for a moment." On the way home, Wu Tian sighed and said, "Bro Yi, don't worry. With your background, I'll help you get things done. The Yi family will quickly see you as one of their own, but as for your fiancée, she's already someone else's. I'm afraid you won't be able to keep her." The scene shifted to a small street where passersby were curious about a sign. They said, "What kind of business is this? Looks very impressive. This situation might actually happen." The sign read, "Want to become beautiful? I can help. Want to get healthy? I can help. Want to regain your charm? I can help. Want to have a son or a daughter? I can help. Cure all illnesses, the world's unique skill." A crowd gathered, whispering excitedly, "Oh my, this is so mysterious, so powerful. But I wonder if he's really capable. Which hospital is he from? Does he have a medical license?" The man proudly answered, "I don't belong to any hospital. My abilities are beyond what any hospital could afford to pay for." His response drew mocking laughter from the crowd. "You're not a doctor at a hospital. Did you escape from a mental institution? How can someone so young be so crazy? It's such a shame. No one will believe in you." Unfazed by the mockery, he calmly replied, like the ancient sage Jiang Zia, fishing. "Only those who want to bite will catch the hook. Those who trust me will know I'm a treasure. Those who don't will see me as worthless." The crowd unintentionally caught Wang Fancy's attention. "Oh, what's going on over there? Why are so many people gathered around?" She told the driver, "Stop the car, let me get out and check it out." She struggled to squeeze through the crowd, politely asking people to make way. When she spotted him, she shouted, "Wu Tian, is that you?" She couldn't help but tease him. "What a tough guy. What are you doing here? This is a bit much, don't you think?" He sighed, "I'm being very modest. I was actually planning to add another bag of health products. Wang, if you have something to take care of, you should go handle it first." She confidently said to him, "You're doing this, but you don't have patients coming to your door. This kind of thing might need a bit of skill. Let someone as beautiful as me show you what real ability looks like." She then posted a live interview update. She asked him, "Mr. Yi, do you think doing this will make people come to you with their problems?" He confidently responded, "There will always be people who recognize my abilities." She quickly followed up with another question. "Do you see yourself as exceptional because of this?" In response to such a question, he casually replied, "Others laugh at me for being too outrageous, but I laugh at them for not being able to see through me." Unexpectedly, this news made Qi Xin burst into laughter. "Ha ha ha. What on earth is this guy up to?" Wang Man, standing beside her, chuckled, "CEO, aren't you angry? But he's supposed to be your fiancé, and yet he's doing something so embarrassing." Qi Xin stared at the screen. "Something this interesting? I'm not angry. Actually, I'm kind of curious to see how this turns out. This person's causing such a big stir. What will the result be? Wang Man looked at her in disbelief. It's not just Wu Tian. Even the CEO has changed. If this were before, she would definitely be angry. At that moment at the Yi family estate, the news continued playing on the Yi family's television. You ask me why I wear glasses? Obviously, it's to look at beautiful women. Clearly, the lenses turned dark, so besides this, what else could sunglasses be useful for? Yi Yan, irritated, pointed at the TV. Dad, am I seeing this right? Isn't that the useless kid? The man sitting next to him sneered. Well, isn't that the kid you've had outside? He's the eldest son of the Yi family, Yi Hangkai. Hang Dong, confused, thought to himself, this kid came back to Dong Cheng and now he's not even in touch with me. What is he doing now? Grandfather, enraged, slammed the table. This is outrageous. He's completely ruined the Yi family's reputation. He then shouted at Hang Dong, I know you've secretly been helping him. From now on, stop supporting him in any way. The Yi family can't afford to lose face like this. Hang Dong still wanted to defend him. Dad, he's my son. Yi Yan smiled and spoke up. Grandfather, I saw him yesterday. Do you know what he said to me? He said that in the future, he will be the Yi family, and when that time comes, he'll kick me and everyone else out. After hearing this, Grandpa grew even more angry. So, a bastard child dares to say something like that. Hang Dong, if you keep supporting him, don't blame me for being rude. Yi Yan spoke to Hang Dong. That's right, Uncle, your future daughter-in-law might not be able to hold on either. I heard that Wu Tian has already said he wants to break off the engagement with Cheng Kixin, which has really made him furious. What an idiot. Do you think it's easy to find a good wife for him? And now, he wants to cancel the engagement. The lady sitting next to him patted his shoulder, trying to calm him down. A little girl beside her spoke up, Dad, big brother, maybe there's something he's trying to do by acting this way. Don't get too angry. The little girl was Yi Hangdong's youngest daughter, Yi Jiao. Yi Yan refused to back down. Grandpa, I also ran into the Ouyang family. Ouyang house seems to have some interest in Cheng Kixin. If we play this right, we could use this situation to build a relationship with the Ouyang family. Grandpa agreed the Yi family is considered one of the top families in Dongcheng, but compared to the Ouyang family, we're just a small clan. Yi Yan, if the time comes, you should help young master Ouyang. Yi Dongswan spoke up, Dad, I heard that Cheng Kixin is eager to deal with business matters, which is why Yi Wu Tian wants to keep him around. The situation is getting messier. When it comes to handling businessmen, I have my ways. She was Yi Wu Tian's third sister, Yi Dongswan. Yi Hangdong stood up angrily. Enough! She's my daughter-in-law. What do you mean by treating her like this? Grandpa was also upset. He slammed the table and shouted, What do you want to do? Do you want him to go back to his roots? Let me tell you, as long as I'm here, you can forget about it. Wang Fansai sat waiting, sneering. It's already late afternoon and no one's shown up yet. Do you still have hope? He continued to smile and said cheerfully, Every beginning is hard. Don't worry, someone will come sooner or later. Dr. Wu squeezed his way through the crowd, saying, Excuse me, please make way. Make way. The people around began whispering, Dr. Wu's here. Is that really Dr. Wu? He laughed heartily. Bro Yi, did you set this up to make it easier for me to find you? Ha ha ha. I have a case with me. Not sure if you're interested. He simply replied, If there's money, I'm interested. As long as the money's right, any illness can be cured. Old man, tell me about his condition. The crowd standing around looked on in surprise. Wow, it seemed like Dr. Wu and him were very familiar with each other. If he had that kind of connection with Dr. Wu, he might really be someone impressive. Dr. Wu spoke up, paralyzed, numb limbs, slurred speech, and it's been 2 days since the symptoms appeared. He thought for a moment and then said, Did he catch a cold? 2 days isn't too bad. Just then, a man barged in aggressively. Move aside. Move aside. I'm looking for a doctor. He looked him up and down from a distance. The man had a bald head, large ears, thick fingers, a big gold chain, an expensive watch, and a fancy suit. He seemed intrigued. The man was a classic example of a newly rich person. If there were 3 words written on his forehead, it would say rich guy. He approached quickly and said, I'm Ding Sheng, my brother. Help me out here. What's wrong with me? He pointed at himself, his body weak and out of shape, looking exhausted and drained, with his wasted knees feeling shaky. His kidneys were weak. He grabbed both of the other man's hands, smiling as he said, You're spot on. You really are a medicine expert. Bro, you have to help me. You absolutely must help me. The man replied calmly, It's not a big problem. It's just the cost of treatment. Ding Sheng quickly handed over a check. Bro, please help me out. Here's 100,000, consider it for my treatment. The man's face changed. Just 100,000 doesn't seem like much for your help. It should be 1 million. If you can't do that, I'll find someone else. Ding Sheng froze and broke out in a cold sweat. What, a million? Then he quickly corrected the check. All right, a million it is. As long as you can fix me, it's totally worth it. The man laughed joyfully. Ha ha! I really like people who are straightforward. He quickly wrote out a prescription. Sistinch, Poria, Eucamia, Atractylodes, Romania, Morinda, Shisandra, each 30 grams. He handed the prescription to Ding Sheng. For the Sistinch, use wine to steam it and soak the Morinda in wine. Go to a pharmacy and have them make each pill 10 grams. Take 2 pills a day for half a month. It will definitely improve your energy and spirit. Ding Sheng took a look, and Dr. Wu, understanding, said, This prescription is fine. Take it and use it. He felt reassured. Thank you, medicine god. Even Dr. Wu thought the prescription was effective. This guy might really be the medicine god after all. Fancy, standing nearby, kept sizing him up. His heart is really dark. This bastard is making money way too easily. He's already made $1 million, and here I am, working hard as a reporter. How long will it take me to make that much? Wu Tian turned to her and said, Reporter Wang, you should trust me this time. I initially charged you only 20,000 as a friendly gesture, right? How's your condition? Is it getting any better? She awkwardly turned away, muttering, Huff, I guessed it's somewhat acceptable. Later that evening at Chen Kixin's house, she was happily watching the news. Wu Kansheng had visited a street doctor in person. Could he really be the medicine god? The street medicine god had opened up shop, and his medicine cost $1 million a month. She couldn't help but laugh. This guy is getting more and more interesting. How did I not notice how interesting he was before? Her phone rang, and it was Yang Hao. However, she didn't answer. He sighed, not picking up again. He got out of the car and looked into her house. You can't escape me, Kixin. Her mother knocked on her room door. Sao Mai, Yang Hao is here to see you. Go meet him for a bit. She was startled and asked, Hub, he came to the house? After changing clothes, she went downstairs and greeted, Senior, you're here. Yang Hao asked worriedly, Little sister, why didn't you answer my calls? Are you feeling unwell, or have you been too tired these past few days? She sat down in a chair and casually replied, I'm fine. Don't worry, just a little tired. Her mother smiled and said, Yang Hao, maybe she's just been worn out from work. You should take her out for a walk or to see a movie. Anything really. Don't just let her stay at home all day. He thought that was a good idea and said, Right, let's go out for a bit. What do you say? Would you do me the favor? She could only say, all right. The two of them went to the square. He spoke up. The square is the perfect place to relax. Little sister, is your bad mood because of Wu Tian? She was startled and blushed slightly as she replied, Ha, how could that be? Why would I care about him? Senior, you're just joking. Suddenly, the sound of a child's laughter echoed, Ha ha, uncle, go faster. It was Wu Tian waiting for her on his bicycle. Ha ha, this is fun, go a little faster. He was helpless, really out of patience with his little niece, and he did a few more laps around. She was surprised when she saw Wu Tian. Is this Wu Tian? Is this my fans? A few minutes later, her mother called out, Yang, it's getting late. We should head back. Remember to say goodbye to your uncle first. The little girl replied politely, okay. At that moment, Yang Hao spotted him too. Wu Tian, what is he doing here? She hurriedly said, Senior, let's go. Wu Tian also noticed the two people, so he walked over and asked, Chen Kixin, what do you want? Yang Hao, irritated, snapped, What do you mean? What do I want? Can't you see we're here on a date? He turned away, not forgetting to warn the two of them, Miss Cheng, I don't mind if you're getting close to another man, but don't forget, the person in front of you is my fiancé. So, can you at least show me some respect? I hope to see the signature on the annulment paper tomorrow. She tried to call him back. No, it's not like you think. Back home, she threw herself on the bed and cried. No, it's not like that, it's not. Downstairs, her mother was worried. Mr. Cheng, what's going on with our daughter? She just went out and came back so soon, as she looks like she's been deeply hurt. He didn't care and not wanting to deal with it, said, If you want to know, go ask Xiaoxin. She angrily shouted, What? You want me to go ask our daughter? Don't forget she's your daughter too. Still upset, she complained, I don't understand. What's so wrong with Yang Hao? How is he not 100 times better than Wu Tian? Her father calmly replied, If you're going to get worked up, don't come to me. I've already said this is our daughter's choice. No matter what the result is, I'll support her. The next day, her alarm went off continuously, but the lazy pig stayed in bed. She groggily sat up, looking disheveled, and realized it was another sleepless night. She tossed her phone into her bag, still half asleep, and muttered, Hurry up, wash your face, and get to the office. Panic set in. She emptied her entire bag, searching frantically. It wasn't there. The divorce papers were missing. She was sure she had placed them in her bag yesterday. She couldn't stop worrying. How could this happen? After a while at the office, she continued to dig through everything, still unable to find them. What happened? Where could she have left the papers? White man entered full of energy. CEO, good news. We have a visitor. White man handed her a piece of paper. Someone's looking for you. They want to collaborate. Here's their business card. She looked at the card, feeling uneasy. Was it Yedong Suan? Yedong Suan was comfortably seated in a chair. I know I'm being forward, but I hope Miss Chang isn't upset. Ki Sin responded in kind. Of course not, CEO Yi. Welcome to my company. She handed over a contract. Miss Chang, I'm a straightforward person. I don't like beating around the bush. My intentions today are simple. I want to collaborate with you, but I have one small condition. Her expression turned serious as she said to her, you and Wu Tian must break off the engagement. She was stunned, slamming her hand on the table. What did you say? The woman spoke calmly. Miss Chang, please don't get upset. First, read through the contracts, and then we can discuss it. Flipping through the documents in a panic, she gasped. What? 300 million for a business deal, and a contract clearly states it's for the money. The woman continued, we know that you and Wu Tian are eager to end the engagement, and I'm just trying to speed up the process. Seeing her reaction, the woman pressed further, Miss Chang, you're an intelligent person. Surely, you can weigh the pros and cons. Keek-sin spoke firmly, you're definitely from the Yi family. I want to know what your true intentions are behind this. If you don't explain clearly, I won't cooperate. The woman smirked. I didn't expect Miss Chang to care so much about your fiancé. This really surprises me. Keek-sin answered bluntly, how I feel about him is none of your business, but you aren't doing this just to harm him, are you? The woman stood up and turned to leave. You have style, but in high society, style alone won't keep you alive. Please give me an answer before this afternoon. I don't like to wait. Keek-sin quickly grabbed her handbag, still confused about the missing contract. Just then, Yedong Swan showed up at the door and she quickly left. This isn't right. I need to hurry home and find that contract. As she reached the door, Wang Man and two large men were standing there. Oh, CEO, are you vetting out? Wang Man pointed to the two men. These gentlemen are lawyers. They want to speak with you. One of the lawyers handed her a business card. Miss Chang, how are you? We've been sent by Mr. Yi Wu Tian to handle the transfer of the company's ownership. She was taken aback. Transfer? Transfer what? Please explain. The lawyer behind him held up a contract. Since you and Mr. Yi Wu Tian have officially broken off the engagement, according to the terms of the contract, the company needs to be transferred to your name. She replied, maybe I didn't sign any contract at all. He handed her a stack of papers. Miss Chang, this is the contract you signed. She snatched the papers from his hands. Why is the contract in your lawyer's hands? Flipping through the pages, she looked carefully and clearly couldn't find her signature. But why was her name on top? Panicky, she yelled, this is impossible. I didn't sign this. This part of the contract is fake. He calmly told her, Miss Chang, if you suspect the contract is fake, you can request a handwriting verification. She quickly ran past the two of them and left, shouting, shameless. The rain began to fall as she ran down the street, calling out, Yi Wu Tian, you bastard, where the hell are you? In despair, she shouted, if you have the guts, come out and tell me what the hell is going on. She didn't watch where she was going and tripped over a stone on the side of the road, falling down helplessly, crying, how could this happen? What's going on? I didn't sign it. I didn't sign. At that moment, Oh Yang Hao appeared, running toward her with an umbrella. Sis, what happened? He stood from a distance, watching her and said, it's over, bro Yi. Starting today, your fiancé will become someone else's fiancé. He turned and walked away. I'm really sorry, but when it comes to love, you can't force it. Suddenly, Wang Man blocked his way. I can't let you go. Why is she doing this? Why treat the CEO like this? He sneered. Isn't this the result everyone was hoping for? You were looking forward to it too. Wang Man yelled, I stand by the CEO, but right now she looks so sad. What happened with the contract? The CEO said she didn't sign it. How did it end up in your hands? He suddenly said, she didn't sign it. She deliberately said she didn't sign it. That's not true. Someone brought the contract to me this morning and her name was already signed on it. I just signed it too. You don't care, so forget it. He snorted. Anyway, the result is what it is. I'm leaving. At that moment, Wang Man took out her phone. Haha, good. I started recording earlier, so it was all a misunderstanding. He broke out in a cold sweat and asked Dr. Wu, who was walking beside him, Mr. Wu, you told me you were bringing me here to make money, but this situation is a bit intimidating. He wondered, who exactly is this patient? Dr. Wu's face grew serious. I can only tell you this, his last name is Ning. I can't say much more. As they got closer to the patient's room, he added, be careful. Don't say anything inappropriate. Inside the room, there were two men. The frail old man was lying in the bed. The other man asked, Mr. Wu, is he expert you were talking about? Dr. Wu replied, yes, that's him. He stepped forward, observing the old man on the hospital bed for a moment before saying, numb limbs, misaligned eyes, a body devoid of strength, a purple tongue, and quite dry as well. This is serious. The other man looked surprised as if he appreciated his assessment. He studied him with an evaluating gaze, then placed a hand on his shoulder and asked, bro, how sure are you about this? Wu Tian confidently replied, with the right medicine and my special technique, massage therapy, I'd say about 70% sure. However, the cost of the medicine will be a bit high. Dr. Wu, standing at a distance, shook his head at him and scolded, everything is about money with you. No matter what struggles you have, don't forget the place is full of soldiers with stars on their shoulders. Another man handed him a check. It was a $5 million check. He added, there will be more rewards later. He gladly took it, quickly snatching it up, and laughed. Ha ha ha. I love working with straightforward people like this. Get me some paper and a pen. Once he had everything he needed, he swiftly wrote out a prescription. Bai Hula Shi, Wu Shao Shi, Tian Ma Zhao, Gui Ban, Gang Sin, Hai Fu Zi, Pian Now, Fatai Xin, Wai Ling Xian, Ma Huang, Bai Cao, and Fang Fang. Then he handed it to the man, who accepted it with both hands before heading off to prepare the medicine, also requesting a clean towel for him. 2 hours later, he wrung out the towel and began carefully wiping down the old man's body. This illness required a special treatment method, and he suspected that people might misunderstand his approach when they saw it. He raised his hand, preparing to proceed, but then thought to himself, forget it, let's start with a massage first. I'll deal with the rest when the time comes. When everything was over, it was already late at night. That's enough for today, he said. Make sure to give him his medicine 3 times a day and on time. If things go well, in a month, maybe 2, his condition will improve. He quickly jotted everything down, paying close attention. The next morning, he was walking with Dr. Wu. The doctor spoke up, bro, your skills are really impressive. I couldn't even complain about it myself. By the way, I heard you and your fiancé called off the engagement. He looked at him with a sigh, surprised how quickly that news spread. Just say what you want to say. Dr. Wu chuckled and said, ha ha, I have a granddaughter who's very pretty and she's a flight attendant too. Not sure if you'd be interested in becoming my grandson-in-law. He raised an eyebrow. A flight attendant, huh? She must be attractive. As he thought about how charming she might be, he felt excited and threw an arm around the doctor's shoulder. Ha ha, old man, didn't think you were so clever. Dr. Wu smiled back. Next time my granddaughter has time off, I'll invite you over for dinner and we'll get the 2 of you together. But on the other hand, maybe this was all part of his plan. This kid, he's top-notch. I can't let him slip away. Later that night, while he was dreaming of beautiful women surrounding him, the doorbell rang loudly. Annoyed, he muttered, damn, who could that be? It's the middle of the night, knocking this loud, and now my beautiful dream is ruined? Fuming, he opened the door, and standing in front of him was a female police officer. She was blushing as she ordered, put some clothes on. He angrily raised his middle finger and shot back, who the hell are you? This is my house. Are you going to tell me what to wear? She glared at him and said, I'll say it again. Put your clothes on. He proudly showed off his body, wearing only his underwear, and said, you've never seen a man like this before. She blushed, then kicked him inside the house, saying, if you keep humiliating me like this, I won't be so merciful next time. At Wu Tian's house, he was kneeling on the ground, holding his chest in anger, shouting loudly, who the hell are you? Coming into my house and causing a scene. The strange girl who had barged into his house frowned with anger, standing as if she were ready to strike, and said, you're really asking for it. He angrily moved toward the door and yanked it open, cursing at her. Just as the door was about to close, a hand suddenly blocked it, preventing him from shutting it. The 2 of them kept pushing back and forth like that. Seeing her grip the door so tightly, he thought to himself, damn, this girl's strong. She must be born under the sign of the ox. Suddenly, she shoved the door open and kicked him hard in the face. Afterward, she stood there, ready to continue teaching him a lesson, and said, if you don't want to die, keep your mouth shut. He slowly stood up, wiped his face with his hand, and angrily said, go ahead, kill me. I'll report you. Don't let it get my hands on you, because if I do, you'll experience all 108 ways of suffering. He thought to himself, I was just trying to sleep at home. Why the hell am I getting beaten up? She smirked and laughed. Ha ha ha. Next, she rushed forward, stomped her foot hard on the ground, and kicked him in the face with all her strength. But she didn't stop there. In her anger, she punched him in the chest. The pain was so intense that he collapsed to the ground, groaning, aha! As he opened his eyes and looked at her, he thought to himself, I never imagined that someone who is supposed to be a medicine god would end up being treated this way by a woman. Lying there on the ground, he groaned again, ah! She arrogantly walked up to him and said, next time you dare to talk nonsense, just wait for your wheelchair. Hearing this, he struggled to get up. He glared at her in anger and said, I'll remember this revenge today. She, visibly upset, responded angrily, even cursing, "I'll make you pay." With that, she swung her fist and punched him in the stomach. He gritted his teeth, still trying to endure, his body trembling with anger. Despite the pain, he furrowed his brows and forced a smile. "Ha ha, ha ha, ha." Laughing, he said, "Ha ha. If I were scared of you, I'd be the one holding your shoes for you." She frowned and said coldly, "You really think I won't kill you?" To that he replied, "If you have the guts, go ahead and kill me. Otherwise, if I get my hands on you, you'll regret ever being born." He raised his middle finger at her, speaking through clenched teeth. He thought to himself that if he didn't have any powder hidden on him, this woman wouldn't even be able to stand there talking to him. Then she asked seriously, "I want to know, how is my grandfather's condition? How sure are you about it?" He smirked and said, "Huh? So you're the granddaughter of that old man who's about to kick the bucket." The more he spoke, the closer he got to her, and he pointed straight at her face. With a dismissive tone, he said, "In that case, I can now say for sure that I won't treat your grandfather." Hearing that, she waved her hand and used her powers on him. She ordered, "Come with me, we're going downstairs." She shoved him into the car and drove him directly to her house. As soon as they arrived, he stormed in, barged through the door, and said to her father, "Sorry, I can't do anything for this old man's illness." Hearing that, he was shocked and asked, "Bro, can you tell me what happened? You're hurt too. What's going on?" He looked away, visibly frustrated. Then he shouted, "Do you think I'm an easy target? Honestly, I'm the type who holds grudges. I don't treat this old man because of that." The father looked at him, his face serious, furrowing his brow as he gritted his teeth, and asked, "Who hit you?" The strange girl stepped inside, walked up to him, and calmly replied, "It was me." He was taken aback and asked, "Saiki, why?" She coldly answered, "A misunderstanding." Hearing her soft words, he angrily pulled up his shirt and said, "A misunderstanding. This is also a misunderstanding." Then he continued, "I treated him yesterday for free. I'll return the check to you, and I'm sorry, but you can find someone else." With that, he turned to leave, leaving the father and daughter behind. The father quickly grabbed his arm, saying, "Bro, wait a second. I want to apologize on behalf of my daughter. What can we do to make this right?" He turned back and replied, "Is she your daughter? You should really teach her better." Hearing that, he turned back to her with a dark expression, then slapped his daughter across the face with all of his strength. Fuming, he shouted, "You're such a fool." She stayed silent, her face still frozen in the position from the slap. He glanced back at her and said, "Take it easy with your teaching. No need to show off in front of me. Stop pretending." After they left, she asked her father, confused, "Dad, do you really think you can cure Grandpa?" He replied, "At least it's better than what you could do." Wu Sheng had a lot of respect for him. Hearing her father's response, she said, "I've looked into him. He's just the illegitimate son of the Yi family from Dong Cheng, a troublemaker. Now, he suddenly knows medicine." Her father rubbed the bridge of his nose and said, "A lot of things aren't what they seem on the surface. You'll figure it out. But whatever it takes, you have to let him continue treating your grandfather." She looked worried and said, "But." Switching to the city, in the office of a company, the desk and floor were cluttered with miscellaneous items. The secretary walked into the room and, seeing the mess, hesitated before asking, "CEO, what's going on here?" The CEO, unfazed by the secretary's confusion, calmly replied, "I didn't expect my mom to be so careless with the contract. I've rented a place, so I won't be going back to that house for now. By the way, Xiao Man, have you found any news on him?" The secretary sighed and answered, "No. He doesn't even have a phone. It's not easy to track him down." At that moment, the secretary realized that ever since she finished recording the message for the CEO, she had been paying even more attention to the person across from her. The scene shifts to the house where Wu Tian is staying. It's just dawn, and he sits up on the bed, stretching. He feels surprisingly comfortable, as if he just woke up and his injuries have already healed by more than half, no longer causing him the intense pain they did before. As he stirs, the soreness in his body reminds him of the events from the day before. In anger, he mutters to himself, "That crazy woman. I swear, if you ever end up in my hands again, I won't let you off the hook." He says this, then smiles and pulls back the curtains. Looking outside, he spots an apartment complex across the street. There, he sees a beautiful girl with pink hair standing by the window stretching. A thought suddenly flashes through his mind, a beauty. Watching her move gracefully, Wu Tian thinks to himself, "Not bad, not bad. Well-proportioned, didn't expect there'd be such a stunning woman across from me." After thinking for a moment, he strokes his chin and adds, "Too bad she's missing a little something. It's not quite as pleasant to look at." Just then, another cute girl appears next to the pink-haired one. The two of them laugh and chat happily. Seeing this, Wu Tian's face flushes red and he frowns, grinning to himself. Wow, fate really has a sense of humor. Two sisters, both my type. Suddenly, the cute girl notices him staring and scowls with clear disdain. Huh? You're blushing. Caught you staring. From across the street, Wu Tian notices the two girls chatting excitedly. They smile mischievously and pull at their clothes as if trying to tease him. He thinks to himself, well, the younger one's not bad either. Looks like she knows that fresh air is great for the body. Then the two girls took off their bathrobe covers, revealing their swimsuits. He immediately stood up, frowning in anger, and yelled, "Holy shit, who wears a bikini under a bathrobe? My innocence has been completely fooled." The two girls laughed out loud when they saw his reaction. The cute one from earlier stuck her tongue out at him and flipped him the middle finger. Fuming, he scowled and said, "Dan, I'll show you what a real man is like." He stormed off, muttering angrily as he walked, "This little girl dares to lure me in, then look down on me. Just wait, I'll show you how tough I can be." When he reached the ground floor of his building, he saw Saiki approaching him. He noticed her but quickly ignored her and walked past as though he hadn't seen her at all. She, however, turned around and followed him. He went into a small restaurant, broke his chopsticks, and started eating instant noodles. As he ate, he glanced at her, still frowning, and asked, "Why are you following me? Don't you know the difference between men and women? Are you trying to seduce me into making a mistake? I don't respect you." She frowned and asked him, "What will it take for you to continue treating my grandfather?" He irritably responded, "Oh, so you think if I don't treat that old man, you'll just follow me around like this, huh?" He looked down on her and said, "Right now, I need to pee. What do you think you're going to do, follow me for that?" Hearing this, she angrily waited outside for him. He went inside, feeling nervous and sweating heavily. "I'm about to start now, and by the way, just so you know, I'm not very sharp, so if I miss, don't blame me." She blushed and said, "So what? As long as you're willing to help treat my grandfather, I can handle this. Do you need my help with anything?" He laughed, shaking his head. "Help me? Do I look like someone who needs help? Come on, you try it." She gritted her teeth, feeling a little embarrassed, but still endured it. She stepped forward, raised her hand, and firmly pressed it against his arm. "As long as you can treat my grandfather." Seeing her determination, he was momentarily taken aback. He hesitated before stepping back slightly. "Don't think you can pressure me with this." By sunset, he went to a small store and bought a small tube. Chuckling to himself, he muttered, "Ha ha, now I can test this properly. With this tool, I'll make sure everything is in top shape." As soon as he stepped out, he saw her standing outside, clearly annoyed. He sighed and said, "Why are you looking at me like that? Is there something wrong with buying a telescope? Let me be clear, I just want to observe the stars." Hearing that, she replied, "I have high-grade military gear. Do you need it?" He turned his head away and calmly said, "Thanks, but no, I can handle it myself." After saying that, he went back to his place, but she kept following him. He raised an eyebrow and asked, "Do you still want to come upstairs?" "Well, I prefer a relaxed environment at home. Are you sure you want to?" She blushed, looked away, and said, "You're impossible." He stood by the window, glancing at the apartment building across the street, but the curtains were drawn. He thought to himself, "Looks like the moment's gone. Guess I'll have to wait for another chance." He used binoculars to look down, hoping to catch a glimpse of any other beautiful women showing off their curves. Suddenly, he noticed someone watching him from below. It was Saiki. She furrowed her brows when she saw him staring. He froze, trembling in fear, muttering to himself, "That perverted woman using binoculars to spy on me." The scene shifted to her home, where the atmosphere was tense. She asked, Dad, how's Grandpa doing?" Her father replied, "Dr. Wu is helping him with a checkup. How are things on your end? Were you able to convince him?" She answered no. Dr. Wu looked at her grandfather lying on the bed and said, "Compared to last night, Mr. Ning's physical condition is starting to decline again. The reason is that the boy didn't do the massage today." Saiki's father asked, "Are you saying Wu Tian's massage method is effective?" Dr. Wu nodded, "Yes, it's very effective. You need to get that old leader treated as soon as possible. The longer you wait, the worse it will be for him." Hearing this, Saiki sighed deeply. The scene shifted to the entrance of Dongcheng School. Wu Tian was riding his bike past the school gates. He calculated the time and realized Wan Er must have already gone to school. It had been a while since they last met, and he felt a bit nostalgic. He wondered how much she had grown since then. Then he sped over and stopped right in front of a girl. "Excuse me, miss, can you tell me where Wan Er is?" She looked at him, sneered dismissively, and walked away. He stood there, confused, and ran off to ask someone else. "Excuse me, miss, do you know where Wan Er is? Can you tell me?" But everyone just ignored him. Frustrated, he clenched his fist, thinking to himself how unfriendly the students were at the start of the school year. He turned around and shouted at the person behind him, "Hey, you the chubby one, where's Wan Er?" The guy froze, turned around, and sneered at him. "You're trying to hit on our campus queen while riding a bike? If you think you can do something different, I have to say I respect you." Then he gave him a contemptuous middle finger. Angrily, he got on his bike and muttered to himself, Holy shit, I can't believe it. I can't even find one person. An hour later, in front of Wan Er, he was sweating and forcing a smile. Wan Er asked him, "Thug, what brings you to visit me?" He glared at her and replied angrily, "It's been a long time and you're still calling me Thug? It's I, not Thug. And stop sticking out your tongue and teasing me. I'm not falling for it." He looked down at her body. They always said it that a girl at 18 undergoes big changes, blonde hair, a bigger chest, nothing like before. He thought to himself, noticing her more mature aura. No wonder she was called the school beauty. Suddenly, she leaned down and asked, "Thug, you've been out so long and you just rode your bike here? With your skills, at least you should have taken an e-bike, right?" He sighed and replied, "Yeah, well, after all this time, I still don't have a place to stay. This afternoon, I'll go to the dorm with you and squeeze in." She looked surprised, then thought for a moment. "Well, so it turns out you had it rough out there, huh?" Blushing, she said, "Well, then, how about you come sit at my dorm for a bit?" Cut to her dorm room. She pushed him down onto the bed and said loudly, "Can you be quiet for a while? Or are you going to die from talking too much?" He happily flopped onto the bed and responded, "All right, let's get back to the main point. Actually, I came here to help you check for snake venom. It's no joke. Snake venom has a pretty long incubation period." She was unexpectedly embarrassed and said, "You're not lying to me, are you? You've taken advantage of me quite a few times before." As she said this, she reached behind to cover the spot where the snake had bitten her. He smiled brightly and patted the bed. "Hurry up. While no one's rushing to handle this, we should get it done. If your friends show up, I'm not responsible. Besides, I've already seen every part of you. What more could I take advantage of?" She blushed, furrowed her brows, and said to him, "Really? But I looked it up online, and cobra venom doesn't last that long. Are you sure? Shouldn't we test it first?" He forced a smile and thought to himself, "Haha, she's really thorough." Seeing his expression, she pouted and thought inwardly, "Just one look is enough to tell. Do I really need to check? When I walk down the street, I can feel those strange stares, and some people even whisper about it." He smirked. "Oh, is that so? But relying on medicine alone isn't enough. You also need a bit of special technique." Facing his words, she calmly replied, "A bit of technique is fine." He pressed his lips together, looking puzzled. "What do you mean?" With a bright smile, she picked up the scissors and cheerfully said, "This is for self-defense. It's very convenient and ensures absolute safety." He broke into a cold sweat, awkwardly replying, "I see. All right, let's get started then." Suddenly, a soft sound came from the room. "Ah!" Wu Tian gently said to Wan Er, "Does it hurt? Just bear with it a little longer. It'll get better soon. I'll be gentler." She winced, pushing him away, but still felt a bit uncomfortable. Hearing that, he suddenly remembered the scissors and sighed, sweating as he did a quick calculation. Just then, the door to the room opened, and his roommate looked at him and her in shock, mouth wide open. She blushed, quickly punched him in the chin, and then rushed to explain to her friend. "It's not what you all think. Please don't misunderstand." Her friend, seeing this, blushed as well and with a mischievous smile said to her, "Sorry to interrupt." After saying that, they started to close the door to leave, but she, blushing with worry, ran to grab her friend's hand. "It's really not what you think. You have to trust me. Do you want to know why my chest has gotten so much bigger?" Hearing that, he couldn't help but feel a bit of pity. "Are you kidding? Nowadays, pearls are way too open. You really want me to pick the fruit off the tree?" Meanwhile, she was still trying to explain to her roommate, but they kept laughing slyly as if they thought she was making things up. Her friend said, "Ha ha, and you say she's not your girlfriend. After eating, she's already that quick." Hearing this, he responded with a smile. "They're all Wan Er's classmates. I'm also very familiar with Wan Er. Let me introduce myself. I'm Wu Tian." Her friend saw him being so open and came over to say hi. "Then I'll call you Yi," she said. "I'm Zhang Wang Jing. The other two are Xiang Chu Han and Zhun Xiao Yan." They said to him, "Lai, how do you get your chest to grow like that? Do you need to take medicine? You're so impressive. Why don't we think bigger and start a business? You'd definitely make a lot of money." Hearing this, he snorted, thinking that, indeed, women have never been shy about investing in their appearance, spending however much it takes. But right now, this wasn't the right time for that. Maybe after starting a company, then you could think about doing such things. Meanwhile, she, standing behind, thought, do they really want to get treated for that? Not only that, she even imagined what it would look like if her friend was the one receiving treatment from him. Dr. Yi checked everyone's health, saying, "Let's get started right now." Once she thought this, she quickly stood up and slammed her hand down on the table to stop this from happening. Wan Er propped her chin up with both hands, her face turning red. Wu Tian crossed his arms and shot a look at the other three, feeling speechless. Wan Er quickly changed the topic, stammering, Well, we're all still students. Our main focus should be our studies. Talking about business now isn't really appropriate. Xiang Chuhan made a sly face and smiled. Are you jealous? Xiao Lian's eyes sparkled as she nodded. Yes, you're definitely jealous. Guang Jing shouted loudly, her cheeks turning red. It's so obvious that you're jealous. Wu Tian quickly intervened. Thanks for your concern, but I'm not really thinking about that right now. Chu Han hugged Wu Tian, pressing her body close to his. She even pointed at his chest, speaking softly, Mr. Yi, aren't you going to give it some thought? If you agree, I'll take care of the work stuff for you. Or, if not, how about this? Let me invite you to a meal and we can discuss it a little. Before Wu Tian could respond, he stood there in a daze, scratching his face awkwardly. How would he let this young lady invite him to dinner? I should be the one treating them. In his mind, he thought about how this girl didn't seem to be giving up and decided to chat casually with them for now. Then they all changed into their clothes and got ready to go out. Wu Tian rode his bike next to Wan Er. Wan Er's three friends followed behind, joking around. Ha ha, where are you going? To some fancy restaurant? It's really expensive there, you know. The three girls laughed and joked without realizing Wu Tian was actually a wealthy man. On the other side, Wu Tian and Wan Er were also laughing. All of their actions had been observed by the woman in the nearby car. A new white car was driving in the opposite direction. Why is he here? They had arrived at a private room in the upscale restaurant. The four girls stared at the food on the table, their mouths open in surprise. Wan Er looked at Wu Tian with concern. Did you order all this? Are you really going to eat it all? Wu Tian calmly sat down, cutting his steak and eating it with great enjoyment. Q Han agreed. Yeah, Yi. Ordering so much food like this is such a waste. With his mouth full, Wu Tian replied, It's fine. This is just pocket change for me. The girls quietly thought to themselves that this meal must have cost at least a few thousand, and he's calling it pocket change. That amount could buy dozens of bikes. While eating, Wu Tian asked Wan Er, how's your grandfather doing? Wan Er replied seriously, he's doing well, but I don't want him going back out to sea to catch fish. He's getting older, and pulling the net is really tough for him. Wu Tian paused, his fork still in hand. Then don't let him go out to sea. Soon, I'll accompany you back to the coast to make a living. You don't have to fish. Raising fish is a good option too. Wan Er asked in confusion, raising fish? How would we do that? Wu Tian smiled. That's not something you need to worry about. My methods will definitely work. Xiang Chuhan pretended to speak in a mysterious tone. Brother Yi, what about the situation between us? Can you think about it? You could definitely make a lot of money. Wu Tian, feeling the pressure, almost broke into a sweat. My method requires special massage techniques. Just relying on medicine won't help. The massage focuses on pressure points, and if it's not done properly, it can harm people. It's hard to mass produce. While they were eating, the door suddenly opened. Yi Fai Qiao walked in just as Wan Er and Wu Tian were talking. He squinted at his younger sister. Yi Fai Qiao, with her big, sparkling eyes, gently called out, Big brother. The three women froze and stood up. What was going on? Yi Fai Qiao was calling Wu Tian Big brother, but she was part of the Yi family, wasn't she? Wu Tian coldly took a sip of his drink. What are you here for? Yi Fai Qiao stepped closer, placed her hand on his chair, and shyly said, I accidentally saw everyone just now. Would it be okay if we ate together? Wu Tian didn't even look at her. He pressed his lips together and closed his eyes. It's really annoying. It'll ruin my appetite. Wan Er quickly stood up. Don't mind her, don't mind her. There's still an empty seat at the table. Wu Tian still didn't care about Fai Qiao at all. Wan Er angrily scolded him. You thug. How can you be so rude to your sister? Wu Tian kept his eyes closed and coldly asked, What do you want? Get to the point. I don't like beating around the bush. Yi Fai Qiao quickly explained, Big brother, come back home. Mom and Dad really want to see you. Not everyone in the Yi family is bad. Her eyes sparkled, and she added, No matter what you think, we're still family. Wu Tian took a sip of his drink, frowning. I will never have anything to do with the Yi family again. Please leave. Don't disturb us while we're eating. Fai Qiao felt embarrassed, but gently placed a piece of paper on the table and said, This is my number. If you ever need anything, you can call me. I'll go now. With that, she turned to leave. Wan Er looked confused and asked, Huh? She's just leaving? Wu Tian dropped his face into his hands, clearly exhausted. He glanced at the paper with Fai Qiao's number, then closed his eyes again. As soon as Yi Fai Qiao opened the door, she ran into a group of people. The man with red hair leading them spoke up, I'm curious to see who's bold enough to invite my woman to dinner. Fai Qiao stood frozen, and the group stormed in, all with tough looks and rude attitudes. Where's my Wan Er? One of them demanded. Wan Er's face darkened, her voice annoyed. Shan Shu Hong, what nonsense are you spouting? Who do you think you're calling my Wan Er? The fat, Red-haired man chuckled. Fai Qiao's here too. Haha, what a coincidence. He gave a quick glance and thought to himself, it's a rare opportunity to walk side by side with two stunning beauties. Wu Tian was still eating, clearly ignoring his presence. Fai Qiao looked visibly irritated, crossing her arms and refusing to respond. Unbothered, he continued to speak loudly. Wan Er, I heard someone invited you out to dinner, so if you rushed to put on your $46,000 leather shoes and drove your $6.3 million car over here. He pointed at Wu Tian. Who is he? What's your relationship with him? Wan Er narrowed her eyes slightly, resting her chin on her hand. Do I need to report that to you? Finally, Wu Tian spoke up. He lifted his glass of wine and said loudly, Waiter, could you please get rid of this pig? This is a high-end restaurant, after all. How can you let a pig wander in here? The guy frowned, about to argue, but clearly hesitating. Are you calling me a dog? You got guts. Fai Qiao shouted, Get out. He immediately fell silent, his body stiffening. He pouted, surprised that Fai Qiao would defend him. The Yi family wasn't someone he could mess with, so he reluctantly left on his own, muttering under his breath, You bastard, just wait. They finished eating and were heading home, but Wu Tian was still irritated about what had just happened. What a pain, that fat pig ruined my meal, he grumbled. He quickly changed his tone, smiling and saying, Let me give everyone a ride home. He pointed excitedly to his car. Sang Chu Han immediately waved her hand to decline. Bye, it's really close to the school. We can make it back on our own. But in her mind, she thought differently. I'd love for you to drive us, but your car needs to have enough space first. From the side of the road, a mocking voice called out, Wow, I thought there was someone here with some actual pride. The fat guy with red hair was sitting in a car, leaning his arm on the window, but he was just some bro-blueser. Wu Tian quickly grabbed Wan Er's hand and pulled her along. Come on, let me give you a ride. Wan Er smiled shyly. I haven't been in a car for ages. Just then, a car suddenly sped up and blocked their way. The fat guy got out of the car. Wan Er, if you were looking for someone better than me, fine. But why settle for a loser like this? Wan Er got angry and retorted, That's none of your business. Why do you care? She hugged Wu Tian's arm tightly and said, I like it this way. Can Shu Han, forget it. Wan Er's three close friends looked worried. After all, Can Shu Han was known as a cruel, spoiled rich kid at school. Most people didn't dare mess with him. What should they do now? All of these tense scenes were recorded by Fai Qiao's camera. She watched closely, unsure of how he would handle the situation, wondering if he would really change like the rumors suggested. Can Shu Han arrogantly criticized Wu Tian, saying, Look at this ragged thing you're driving. Putting it in front of my car is an insult to me. You humiliate me, and you still think you can leave. Wan Er wouldn't let him insult Wu Tian any longer and quickly stepped in and saying, Qian Shu Han, shut your mouth. Let me warn you, if this person gets angry, the consequences will be unimaginable. Qian Shu Han sneered, trying to belittle a helpless, poor man and now needing a woman to protect him. He said, You might as well just die. It would be better. Wu Tian smirked. Is that so? He said, quickly moving toward him, pointing. How much is this car worth? I think it's more than 6 million, right? Qian Shu Han clenched his fists, feeling smug. You want to buy it? Don't kid yourself. You wouldn't be able to afford it even if you worked for 10 years. Wu Tian didn't respond. He took a tube from his hand, popped it open, and drank it all. Immediately, his muscles bulged, his whole body seemed to expand, stretching his shirt tight. Wu Tian tensed, his body shaking. His veins popped out as he reached for a stick. He swung it hard at the car window, shattering it to pieces. Can Shu Han was terrified, his eyes wide, as glass fell to the ground. Wu Tian casually rested the stick on his shoulder and walked toward Qian Shu Han, his face now hardened. Well, it's not much different, is it? Qian Shu Han, flustered, stepped backward. More glass shards scattered around. Wu Tian jumped, bringing the stick down with full force onto the car, showing no mercy. Qian Shu Han was horrified when he witnessed this scene, holding his face and shouting, What are you doing? Stop! Stop right now! Chu Han and Xiao Yan, standing outside, felt sympathy for him. It's over. Wu Tian has caused a huge disaster. This is a sports car worth over 6 million. There's no way it can be compensated. Wan Er quickly grabbed Wu Tian to stop him from going any further. What are you doing? Are you crazy? How are we going to clean this up afterward? Wu Tian whispered in her ear, Don't worry, I know what I'm doing. Wan Er relaxed after hearing this. He took his bank card out and handed it to her. Take this card, go ahead. Happy to receive the card, Wan Er cheerfully walked away without asking any more questions. Once everything was settled, Wu Tian shoved his hands into his pockets. tossing the stick behind him. Ah, I almost forgot. The car's still solid. You can't just break it by hitting it. With that, Wu Tian calmly opened the car door and got inside. He shifted into gear and slammed the gas pedal. The car shot forward at high speed, lost control, and crashed into a power pole, causing serious damage to both the pole and the car. Kan Shu Hong could only stare in shock, screaming, "My car! My car! Damn it! I'll make sure you pay for this." After the violent crash, the car was smoking. Wu Tian opened the door and with an indifferent and defiant smile said, "There, it's done." Wu Tian walked up to the fat guy, gave him a quick look, and sarcastically said, "What if I smash your car?" He leaned in close, gritted his teeth, and asked, "Huh?" Kan Shu Hong was left speechless and didn't dare make a sound. The incident had caught the attention of passersby. A crowd gathered nearby, talking and taking photos. "Oh my God, someone's smashing a fancy car. Who's that guy? He's terrifying." A few young people were excited, trying to capture the rare scene. Someone else added, "I think I saw someone calling the police. They should be here soon." As soon as they finished speaking, the police car arrived and stopped right in front of the crowd. A beautiful woman got out from the driver's seat and slammed the door shut. She stood with her hands on her hips, frowning. "Wu Tian, why are you causing trouble again? Do you think the world belongs to you? You think you can do whatever you want and no one will stop you, right?" Seeing the police, Kan Shu Hong quickly pointed at Wu Tian and complained, "Arrest him. It's your job to protect people's property. Arrest him and make him pay me back. I want compensation." The female officer twirled the handcuffs in her hand, sighed, and grabbed Wu Tian. "All right, come with me. Let's head to the station." Wu Tian didn't move right away. He waited for a moment, then turned to the officer. "Wait, didn't he just say he wants me to pay him money?" He grabbed her wrist, pulling it toward himself, and with one hand, he gently lifted her chin, like he was petting a cat. "In other words, if I pay him for the car, he won't pursue the matter anymore, right?" Kan Shu Hong sneered. "What are you pretending for? Someone as poor as you could never afford to pay for my car. As long as you can compensate, I won't pursue it. If not, just wait to go to jail." Wu Tian pulled her hand closer and softly rubbed his cheek against hers, clearly enjoying the moment. "Did you hear that, Captain? He said if I pay for the car, he won't pursue it anymore." The female officer awkwardly pulled her hand back. Wu Tian looked at her affectionately. "You heard that clearly right." She blushed deeply, thinking to herself, "How can he be so foolish? How could this jerk be short on money?" Everyone's still watching, and Kan Shu Hong raised his fists, threatening, "Pay me for the car, or you're going to regret it." From behind the crowd, someone shouted, "Get out of the way!" Wan Er arrived with a group of bank employees, each carrying several heavy bags of money. "Move aside," she ordered. They dropped the bags of money to the ground with a thud. Wan Er ran over, out of breath, but didn't say a word except, "Here's what you asked for. I brought it." Yi Fai Kiao, still holding the camera, stared in surprise as he made a guess. Those four are bank employees. Could the bags actually be full of money? The police captain rubbed his face in frustration. This jerk is losing it again. Wu Tian smiled knowingly as he picked up one of the bags of money. Kan Shu Hong, clearly impatient, sneered, "That damn poor bastard, bringing people to carry bags and acting all high and mighty. Hurry up and pay up." Wu Tian opened the bag, scattering stacks of money everywhere. He held a few of the stacks in his hands and shrugged, saying, "Open your eyes, you idiot," before shoving the money right in front of Kan Shu Hong's face. "This is the compensation I'm giving you." Kan Shu Hong broke into a cold sweat. Wu Tian even slapped him a few times with the stacks of cash, and Kan Shu Hong couldn't tear his eyes away from the money. Wu Tian lifted 3 stacks of bills, making everyone gasp in disbelief. The look of superiority was clear on his face as he taunted, "Open your eyes and take a good look." Kan Shu Hong's expression changed, his confidence fading into fear. Wu Tian tossed the money at him and added, "There's 6.5 million here. The remaining 200,000 is for you." The people standing outside were drooling at the sight of the money. They were thinking, is that a stack of 10,000? What must it feel like to be hit with that much cash? It must feel amazing. I wish I could be hit with that too. Xiao Chuhan exclaimed, "Whoa, this person already has money." Zhang Xiaoyan thought for a moment. After all, he's from the Yi family. How could he not have money? Zhang Wangjing looked on, sizing him up. He's riding a bicycle. He's definitely just pretending to be poor. Lai Wan Er saw Wu Tian casually tossing around so much money and stood off to the side, looking regretful. "What a waste," she said. Kan Shu Hong immediately shouted, complaining to the officer, "You saw him destroy my bike. Not only did he destroy it, but he also humiliated me. He should be arrested." The team leader spoke up. "You heard him. No matter what you do, you'll still have to come with me to the station." Wu Tian turned back and said, really? He made it clear there wouldn't be any follow-up, and many people had witnessed it. He then raised his hand and asked, everyone heard that clearly, right? The people around him fell silent, not saying anything. Seeing their change in attitude, he leaned against the car and made a request. Whoever has good ears, a scrap metal I bought is yours. Selling that scrap could get you quite a bit of money. The group of people quickly changed their attitude, turning against him. This young man is outrageous. He doesn't keep his word. Someone else joined in. Young people these days really have no sense. If he were my son, I'd crush him for acting like this. Qian Shu Hong shouted angrily. This isn't over between us. The sky was clear as Wu Tian walked down the road, pushing his bike, still fuming. Although he'd ended up at the police station, a part of him wasn't too upset about it. In fact, he found it oddly enjoyable. Occasionally messing with some troublemakers was actually kind of fun. Behind him, a woman's voice called out, using money to push people around, this kind of tactic is something you'd think of. Sai Qi appeared from behind. Wu Tian turned around and asked, are you following me? Sai Qi stood on the sidewalk, arms crossed, answering proudly, so what if I am? As long as you can help treat my grandfather, I'll do whatever it takes. Wu Tian then made a suggestion. If you strip down and let me tease you, I'd feel a lot better. He stared at Sai Qi, and she replied, maybe, but I have a fiancé. Wu Tian laughed. Perfect. That makes me like you even more. Sai Qi didn't forget to tell him this either. My fiancé is part of the Special Forces, the top team. Hearing this, Wu Tian hesitated for a moment. He then turned and said, that's enough. I'm too lazy to argue with you. I have to go home. Sai Qi quickly stopped him. Wait, she said. Without a second thought, she kneeled down on the ground and bowed her head. Please help my grandfather. Wu Tian was taken aback by her actions. What are you doing? I really hate it when people try to bind you with pity. Sai Qi, still with her head lowered, pleaded, my grandfather's condition has gotten much worse. He hasn't wronged you, it's me. Please, I beg you to help me. Wu Tian casually responded, I'm not a doctor. I don't have any medical skills. Do you really think bending will make a difference? Sai Qi stayed determined. With her head still bowed, she spoke directly and clearly. If you can agree to help, I will give you one condition. Whatever it is, just say it and we will make it happen. You know what a condition for my family means. If it's money, nothing compares to it. After hearing what Sai Qi said, Wu Tian paused. He realized that the offer would actually be quite beneficial to him. Indeed, the word family was no joke. This offer was tempting. Moreover, he had already wasted 7 million yuan and his bank balance was getting low. He needed to find a way to quickly replenish his funds in order to proceed with his future plans. After thinking for a moment, he decided to set the price at 10 million, along with 3 conditions that he wouldn't negotiate on. The man, holding a glass of water, turned to speak. 10 million is nothing. The real issue is those 3 conditions. Are there any other details? Sai Qi immediately replied, no, nothing else. He then instructed his daughter, you should talk to him more, see if we can loosen up the conditions a bit. If that's not possible, we'll just have to accept what he's offering. Sai Qi agreed, okay. At a large company, a knock echoed from outside. The secretary rushed in to report, CEO Liu Fu is here again. Chen Kixin turned and asked, what does he want now? The secretary responded, he said he's here to discuss a possible partnership with you. She looked irritated. A partnership with him? What could possibly be good about working with him at this point? She turned to the secretary and said, tell him I'm not here. Before the secretary could relay the message, Liu Fu boldly entered the room, grinning. Ha ha, CEO Cheng, are you really going to turn down a potential partner who genuinely wants to work with you? He held a huge bouquet of roses in his hand, speaking loudly with a broad smile. Chen Kixin, clearly annoyed, coldly replied, Boss Liu, don't you know that showing up uninvited like this really annoys people? There's nothing to discuss between us. Please take your flowers and leave. Though Liu Fu had already said so much, he shamelessly moved closer to Chen Kixin, smiling and joking. Kixin, don't reject me so quickly. I know your company has been facing some minor troubles lately, and I'm genuinely trying to help you. Chen Kixin immediately called her secretary. Xiao man, take these flowers and throw them out. Liu Fu grew angry and raised his voice. Kixin, is this how you play it? Is this really how you're going to treat me? She looked at him with cold, sharp eyes and replied firmly, where did you hear that my company is having trouble? Liu Fu put on a face of feigned innocence and said loudly, oh, how can I reveal the source of my information? Even if your company isn't struggling, there's no need to reject and drive away high-quality clients, right? Chen Kixin wasn't one to back down easily. She responded directly, I won't deny that Boss Liu is a good client, but my fiancé wouldn't approve of this. Hearing the words fiancé, Liu Fu was taken aback, his mouth hanging open in surprise. Liu Fu, Fiancé? Are you talking about Wu Tian? Did you break off your engagement with him? Chen Kixin smiled triumphantly, not expecting Liu Fu to be so well informed, even going so far as to waste his effort on this. Chen Kixin, aren't you tired? If there's nothing else, I really need to get back to work. Liu Fu fell silent at her words. Then he stubbornly pressed, Kixin, don't you know how I feel about you? Unable to stand hearing more from him, Kixin turned to her secretary and said, Xiao man, see him out. Liu Fu angrily shouted in a threatening tone, Chen Kixin, if you don't know the difference between right and wrong, don't blame me for being ruthless. From today, I'm going to make your company go bankrupt. I'll make sure you have nothing. Chen Kixin barely seemed to care, as if his words were just a breeze passing by. She waved him off, saying, maybe you're overestimating yourself. Go on, take care, no need for any goodbye. Fuming with rage, Liu Fu stormed off, slamming the door behind him. Seeing him so angry, the other man quickly rushed over to try and comfort him. Young Master Liu, don't get so worked up. That woman is totally out of line. Let's just try another approach. Unable to contain his anger, Liu Fu cursed loudly. Shut up! Look at your so-called smooth talk and your lame attempts to impress. I buy this huge bouquet of roses and it doesn't even make a dent. It's better to just use drugs and get it over with. The man blushed, knowing he could only agree. Yes, young Master Liu is right. Though he said this deep down, he thought to himself, if you hadn't done so many evil things, if your reputation wasn't so ruined, would things have turned out like this? Liu Fu then asked him, have you found out where that bastard is? The man quickly responded, yes, we tracked him down. Wu Tian is staying in the Tianjin sub-district. Young Master Liu, are you planning to take action? A wicked smile crossed Liu Fu's face as he said, looks like we'll have to take a different approach after all. The video was recorded in the morning with Wu Tian and Kan Shu Hong. Wu Tian was chasing him, throwing money at him. The silver-haired man then asked, Fai Qiao, what do you want to say? She immediately pointed at the screen and said, Grandpa, I just want to say that my brother, he's not the same as before. The guy resting his chin sighed, yeah, he's not the same. Compared to before, now he's destroying things and losing millions of yuan. The silver-haired man looked puzzled and asked, what do you mean he's not the same as before? Fai Qiao shook her head and said, I can't answer that. The man laughed loudly and confirmed he's definitely not the same. Now, he's even more different than before. Ha ha ha. Fai Qiao puffed her cheeks, looking annoyed. Her aunt turned to her and grabbed her hand, saying, sweetheart, I really think your brother is different. Everyone needs to believe me. Her aunt listened to her, but could only advise her, Fai Qiao, no matter what his situation is now, it doesn't matter. Grandpa won't be able to accept it. Fai Qiao turned to her father, tugging at his shirt and calling Dad. Seeing that all efforts were useless, Fai Qiao thought hard, feeling heavy-hearted. No matter what, she had to find a way for Grandpa to accept her brother. At an apartment building, there was a loud pounding on the door. Wu Tian, looking irritated, rushed to open it. He asked, who's there? It was Sai Qi, who had come to find him. Wu Tian stared at her for a long moment, sighed, and quickly slammed the door shut. Furious, Sai Qi pulled out her military-issued gun and shot at the door, smashing it open. Wu Tian heard the gunshots and trembled in fear. The door was broken, and Sai Qi boldly walked into the house. Seeing the door ruined, Wu Tian snapped, what do I have to do with you, that you go as far as using a gun? But then he gently asked, have you thought things through? Sai Qi immediately took off her coat and demanded, if you agree to treat my grandfather, I can. Hearing her speak in such a coquettish tone, Wu Tian blushed and yelled, are you out of your mind? Didn't I already say there were 3 conditions? Are you telling me your body isn't worth more than those 3? And don't you have a fiancé? Sai Qi quickly shot back, that's your problem. If he comes to bother you, you're on your own. Wu Tian didn't force her any further. All right, then keep undressing. I only told you to take it off. I didn't say you had to agree to anything. Sai Qi felt like she was trapped by him, and she couldn't do anything about it. She scowled and said one word, you. Wang Fansai suddenly appeared. When she saw what was happening, in Wu Tian's room, she screamed, you dare to do this in my room? This is disgusting, totally out of line. Wu Tian didn't react much. He just stood there, arms crossed, watching her and said, why are you so worked up? What's the big deal? Who says you can't do this in a room? What are you to me? What right do you have to tell me what to do? The two of them started arguing. Wang Fansai shot back. This is clearly my room. Wu Tian kept talking, his voice rising. You still don't feel embarrassed? You're renting out rooms for crazy prices and now you want to control me? You trick me like this. Do you have any conscience? Sai Qi stepped outside to take a phone call and then came back to deliver a message. Wang Fansai and Wu Tian continued their heated argument. Don't blame me. You're the one who's vile. I'm just following your example. After finishing the call, Saiki turned to them and announced, all right, enough flirting for now. Wu Tian, I've got some bad news for you. Your fiancé has been kidnapped. The two people overhearing this were immediately shocked and said loudly, what? Kidnapping. Wu Tian quickly turned to Saiki and asked, what happened? Tell me where she is. Saiki refused to answer and instead made a demand. Why should I tell you? Does this mean you're begging me? She lowered her voice and added, now we're finally on equal terms. Wu Tian's face darkened and he clearly wasn't calm inside. Are you threatening me? He asked, his voice tight with tension. Saiki struck him again, knocking him to the ground. Wang Fancy, stunned by how violently she attacked, said, who is this woman? She's ruthless. Wu Tian, now furious and with his fiancé kidnapped, snapped. His face turned dark as he spoke in a heavy voice. I hate being hit, especially by women. Saiki laughed loudly. Ha ha ha. This feels so good. Wu Tian, I've put up with you for a long time. If you want to save your fiancé, you'll have to save my grandfather first. Wu Tian, still defiant, wiped the blood from his wound. You better tell me where she is. If not, I swear you'll die in a way that's not pretty at all. Saiki saw that he was still angrily yelling, stubborn, and reckless, not caring about the consequences. Wang Fancy rushed forward, raising her hand to protect Wu Tian. Don't hit him. What are you doing? As Saiki was about to strike, she couldn't control herself anymore. It was too late to stop, so she delivered a strong blow to Wang Fancy's stomach. Wu Tian had no idea what to do. He had just gotten involved, and dealing with situations like this was beyond him. Wang Fancy flinched from the hit, wincing in pain, and groaned, ouch. Wu Tian rushed over to her, worry, are you okay? Are you hurt? For someone as fragile as her, that blow was definitely painful. She hesitated, but weakly said, I'm fine, but it really hurts. Wu Tian was now furious. I really don't like hitting women, but you're going to apologize to Wang Fancy right now and tell me where Chang Kik-sin is. I'll let the attack go if you tell me. But Saiki refused to say anything, stubbornly keeping quiet. You have no right to make demands of me. Before she could finish speaking, Saiki suddenly felt something was wrong and collapsed, paralyzed on the ground. What's happening? Wu Tian kicked her lightly, then said coldly, congratulations, you're the first woman I've ever hit. Ning Saiki shouted, what did you do to me? He narrowed his eyes and replied in a harsh tone, where is she? Saiki remained firm. Unless you meet my conditions, don't think you'll get anything from me. Wu Tian, using any means necessary, held something in his hand. Really? I'm very curious. What would you say if a woman in your family turned out to be a slut, someone who spends all day seducing men? Sounds like it would be pretty interesting, right? As he spoke, he opened the paper bag and let it fall towards Saiki. She felt a wave of fear. Are you threatening me? She asked. Wang Fancy quickly warned, he's not threatening you. He really can do it. She couldn't believe it and yelled, just by him. Halfway through her words, something felt off. She started to tremble. Damn it, what have you done to me? She shouted. He threatened her. Tell me where she is now. If anything happens to her, I'll make sure your entire family pays for it. Saiki sensed that this man was not just making empty threats. Wu Tian then made a new offer, reducing the 3 conditions to 2, plus an additional 10 million, and insisted that she immediately take him to Chang Kik-sin. Ning Saiki knelt on the floor, trembling. Fine, I've already sent people to rescue Chang Kik-sin, but this matter between us is not over yet. In an old abandoned building, there wasn't a soul in sight. Liu Fu was surrounded by a group of people, restrained and forced to kneel on the ground. Chang Kik-sin was huddled in a corner when a hand gently touched her head. Wu Tian softly asked, are you okay? She looked up for a moment, then tears welled up in her eyes. She ran to Wu Tian and hugged him. Liu Fu, he locked me up. I was so scared. He gently wiped away her tears and comforted her. It's okay. It's all over now. Don't worry, I'm here. Nothing's going to happen to you. Be good. Don't cry anymore. With eyes as beautiful as yours, it would be such a shame if they got swollen from crying. Chang Kik-sin asked, are you upset? Wu Tian quickly changed the subject and turned away, but Chang Kik-sin kept pressing. Then why did you come to save me? He gave a shy smile. It's a long story. Can you wait outside for me for a bit? I need to take care of something. She immediately grabbed his hand. No, I'm scared. He gently reassured her. It'll be over soon. Be good. The secretary led her outside. Saiki and Wu Tian stood watching as Liu Fu was still restrained. Wu Tian then said, Ning Saiki, let me handle this. I have something to settle. Everyone watched as Wu Tian and Ning Saiki stood there, looking at the man, Liu Fu, who was squinting in pain from the bright light. named Sai quickly stepped forward and called out to her subordinates. Both of you step back. She then turned and looked at Wu Tian. This man was truly a weirdo. He had worked so hard to get those 3 conditions from our house, only he used 2 of them on a woman. Wu Tian immediately pulled the tape off Lu Fu's mouth and threatened him. I was actually going to let you go with that money, but you're being ungrateful. It's clear you want to die. The fat man trembled and begged. Young Master Yi, it's all a misunderstanding. I'll pay you back however much you want. Please let me go. We've known each other for a while, right? Wu Tian calmly asked him, let you go. He then spotted a stick lying on the ground, picked it up, and held it out in front of the fat man. Lu Fu nervously begged some more. Young Master Yi, please, I beg you. I swear I won't do this again. You got to believe me. Wu Tian and told Sai to untie him. Sai quickly called over her people to untie him. Lu Fu felt uneasy inside. What exactly was this person planning? Once the ropes were off, he immediately tried to run, even though he ran right past Wu Tian without seeing any reaction from him. Lu Fu glanced back at Wu Tian, quickly looked away, and threw the stick he had just picked up at the fat man, Lu Fu. The staff spun the cane in circles, and the man got struck on the leg. He immediately fell to the ground, his face filled with fear and panic. Wu Tian's expression shifted. He looked like a demon, his smug smile growing as he stepped closer to Lu Fu, tormenting him. The scream echoed through the empty building, but Sai, standing outside, covered one eye and couldn't bring herself to look. She thought, this guy must be a psychopath. She suddenly realized by crippling his leg and one arm, Lu Fu would be awake, but he wouldn't want to live anymore. It was too cruel. Wu Tian stepped out, tossing the bloody cane aside. There was some blood on his clothes too. He turned to Sai and asked, help me call Lu Fu's father. The cane was covered in blood, and Wu Tian had blood on his face as well. He laughed. Don't tell me you can't do it. At the Lu Family Corporation's high-rise building, the phone rang. The man sitting in the chair calmly picked up the receiver. Hello, who is this? He asked. On the other end of the line, the voice replied, Mr. Lu, this is Wu Tian. I've just beaten your son. He's badly injured. You need to come right away. He was stunned when he heard this, unable to believe that his son had fallen into such a mess. Underneath the abandoned building, both the ambulance and the police were already on the scene, where the 2 officers saw Lu Fu lying motionless, their faces darkened, and then the doctors carried him away. Lu Fu's father rushed to his side and yelled, Son, who? Who did this to my boy? Wu Tian gently touched his shoulder and coldly replied, It was me. He kidnapped my fiancée and brought her here, even trying to humiliate her. You should consider yourself lucky. Lucky that I didn't kill him just now. Lu Fu's father was furious at Wu Tian's blunt and shameless words. He turned to the police officer and shouted, Director Xu, as the head of the police, how can you let this happen? Why haven't you arrested him yet? Director Xu calmly wiped his face with a handkerchief and ordered his subordinate, Captain, handcuff him. The officer took out a pair of handcuffs and, without forgetting to warn Wu Tian, said, I just told you to stop causing trouble, and this situation is worse than the last time. Personally, I don't mind your approach this time, but we should handle it more tactfully. Wu Tian felt a surge of confidence. He willingly raised both hands in surrender and teasingly said, all right, don't look at me like that. If you insist, I'll go back with you. The captain narrowed her eyes. Something was off about him. Since when did he start acting this way? Something didn't feel right. At that moment, the doctor approached Lu Fu's father and delivered grim news. Mr. Lu, the young master's condition is critical. His injuries are severe and the chances of recovery are extremely low. Upon hearing this, Lu Fu's father rushed forward and grabbed the doctor's shirt, his voice trembling with desperation. What are you saying? There must be something you can do. He has to survive. A voice rang out in the distance. Help me, Gad. Please help me. I don't want to die. Wu Tian's lips curled into a subtle smile, his expression unrentable. The 3 of them turned sharply, their eyes widening as the desperate cries grew louder. Help me, Gad. Please help me. Liu Tong Wu and the doctor exchanged shocked glances before turning toward the source of the voice. Lu Fu, covered in blood, staggered toward them. His face was pale, his movements unsteady, and his breathing ragged. His clothes were torn, and he clutched his chest as he called out for help. The captain gasped and instinctively moved closer to Wu Tian. This is impossible. Liu Tong Wu, his face twisted with confusion, demanded, What's going on? What happened to my son? The doctor, equally stunned, stammered, I don't know. Lu Fu's injuries should have left him unable to move, and yet, here he was, standing right before them. He immediately ordered them, Hurry up! Someone get over here and save my son! Quickly save my son! Wu Tian raised his voice, saying it could be done. Captain Chang, sitting on his head with his hands cuffed, still carried an air of confidence and calmly replied, "But I heard that President Liu's family is very rich." The scene shifts to Tian Xin's sub-district. Wu Tian was giving Chang Kik-sin, who was lying in bed, a cigarette. He gently comforted her, saying, "It's okay, just take it. It'll make you feel better. Get some good sleep and everything will get better." Upon hearing his comforting words, Chang Kik-sin's face flushed red. After he finished speaking, she quickly fell asleep. Wu Tian sat by her side, watching her sleep. Holding a bowl of medicine, he seemed deep in thought. When he saw that Chang Kik-sin was sound asleep, he relaxed and stood up to leave. But then he realized that her hand was still tightly gripping his shirt, unwilling to let go. Ning Sai-ki, standing outside, reminded him, "She seems really dependent on you." He too felt that this was true. Indeed. After a moment, he coldly added, "Thanks." Ning Sai-ki stood there, a bit stunned. Wu Tian quickly said, "I'll go meet your grandfather. As long as I'm here, he won't die. And just to remind you, the price is still the same, no discounts." Ning Sai-ki, wanting to offer him some advice, said, "Didn't you just get 10 million from Liu Tongwu? Isn't that enough? Besides, don't think that just because you have his money, he's going to let you off easy. He won't forgive you that easily." Wu Tian also spoke confidently, saying, "I can't just let this go. Sparing Liu Fu's life isn't giving him a chance to live. It's making sure he can't even die if he wants to." Sai-ki, confused by what Wu Tian said, turned to ask, "Isn't your goal to get the money?" Wu Tian explained, "I'm a simple person. Once someone pushes me to my breaking point, money can't fix it." 3 hours later, Chang Kik-sin opened her eyes and woke up. She glanced over at Wu Tian, still holding onto his shirt, her attitude a bit shy. She sat up and asked, "How long have I been asleep?" Wu Tian answered honestly, 3 hours. He gently asked, "Are you hungry? I can make something for us to eat." Chang Kik-sin thought for a long moment about the person sitting across from her. This guy cooks. She remembered that in the past, he had to be fed by beautiful women, and he almost forgot how to hold chopsticks. Now he's cooking. The food was already set on the table, and each dish looked beautiful and delicious. Chang Kik-sin tried a bite at the food Wu Tian made. After tasting it, her expression changed. Wu Tian asked, "So, how is it?" "Not bad, right?" Chang Kik-sin kept eating while evaluating it. "It's good. It's really tasty. Actually, I'm surprised." Her words left him speechless. After a moment of silence, just as Wu Tian was about to grab his chopsticks to eat, she spoke up. "There's something I need to tell you. Actually, I didn't sign the annulment papers. My mom did it behind my back. I didn't want this from the start." Hearing what Chang Kik-sin said, he was a little surprised. He turned to her and said, "It's all in the past now. Let's just eat." They both fell silent. Chang Kik-sin's tears rolled down her lashes as she sobbed and confessed, "I really didn't sign it. Can't you give me a chance to explain?" Wu Tian felt helpless and just said dismissively, "Whoever signed it doesn't matter. The contract is already valid. Why make such a big deal out of it?" Her heart ached when she heard his response. She stood up and started to leave, saying, "I'm sorry. I bothered you." She stumbled as she walked, barely able to keep her balance, but in the end, she collapsed onto the floor and fainted. Wu Tian rushed to her, holding her and checking her condition. It hit him all at once. Had he been too harsh? Was he being too unreasonable? Wu Tian gently placed her on the bed, performing a few movements to help her body relax, hoping to ease her pain. As he worked, he couldn't help but wonder, why does she have to suffer so much? Is it because of me? But that doesn't seem right. Doesn't she hate me? Does she like me? No, she must like seeing your brother, right? After thinking for a while, his mind became more and more confused. Women's hearts are truly hard to understand. Chang Kik-sin soon woke up feeling some pain. She let out a small cry. "Ah!" She looked over at Wu Tian, who was massaging her. Her expression hardened, and she stared at him. Wu Tian was flustered for a moment, but quickly regained his composure and explained, "Your health is very weak." Chang Kik-sin lay back down obediently, not saying anything else. Seeing her quiet like this, Wu Tian didn't say anything further and gently lifted her up. Chang Kik-sin shyly asked, "Ah, what are you doing?" But when she asked, she didn't get any response, and instead, her face turned completely red. Wu Tian carefully carried her to the table they had been at earlier, gently seating her down. "Your health is very poor. You need to eat more. With a body like this, how can you manage a company properly?" Chang Kik-sin sat in the chair, determined not to eat. She just sat there, staring for a while. Wu Tian asked her, "Is the food not to your taste?" She didn't answer, her face blank as she seemed to be lost in thought. Then she decided to ask Wu Tian a question that made no sense to him. Are you still you? He was confused, not understanding what she meant, and asked her in return, what do you mean by that? Chang Kik-sin spoke what was on her mind, unsure why she always felt like he had changed. Wu Tian asked, is there something different about me? He wondered to himself if she had noticed something. Chang Kik-sin pointed at him, unable to explain it, only saying that he didn't feel the same. Hearing such vague words, Wu Tian shook his head and urged, don't overthink things. I haven't changed, it's just you thinking too much. Come on, hurry up and eat. After you're done, I'll take you home. Kik-sin kept asking, do you hate me? Wu Tian just smiled and said, of course not. That's not what I mean, she shouted. Then why do you want to send me away? He didn't say anything else. Chang Kik-sin was determined to get an answer, wanting to ask Wu Tian for a full explanation. I still want to know why you agreed to call off the engagement with me. Wu Tian's voice turned cold. Do you hate me? Kik-sin immediately replied, I used to hate you, but now I don't really know anymore. He pointed at her and said, you definitely hate me. The engagement between us was a huge mistake, so I don't regret it. Kik-sin then asked him, then why didn't you agree to call it off before? Wu Tian propped his chin up and gave a careless answer, why before? Maybe it was because I didn't think things through back then. Kik-sin pressed, so what are you planning to do from now on? When he heard the words from now on, it seemed like to him that from now on was too far away. If he couldn't even predict tomorrow, how could he know what to say about the future? Kik-sin suggested to Wu Tian, you don't have a stable job right now. The Yi family doesn't need you and selling medicine on the street. You still have to worry about getting picked up by the city enforcement. If you're not doing anything, why not go back to the company? Wu Tian froze, pointing in his own face in surprise. Are you concerned about me? Wu Tian thought for a moment, could it be? Was this woman really starting to like him? Chang Kik-sin's face turned red, her cheeks flushed with embarrassment. She awkwardly said, what do you want me to do? Wu Tian drummed on the village drum in response to Chang Kik-sin's question, pretending to cough and then telling her, hurry up and eat. You're so weak. It's clear you don't take care of yourself. I'll get you some medicine later. His face turned red, and when he saw she didn't react or argue, he thought, so this is what caring looks like. Have I really beaten the woman who owns this body? She picked up her food and asked, is this your family's secret medicine again? He nodded. Yeah, I told you before, my family has a few secret remedies. There was a knock on the door from outside. The two of them looked toward it. Chang Kik-sin set down her chopsticks, went to open the door, and called out, senior brother. Ao Yang Hao appeared with a worried expression. Little sister, are you okay? I've been so worried about you. Chang Kik-sin reassured him, I'm fine. He looked at her, saw that she seemed okay, let out a sigh of relief and walked into the house. He went over to Wu Tian and patted his shoulder. Nice job, Wu Tian. You did the right thing this time. Wu Tian shrugged him off. You have done the same. Chang Kik-sin walked in and asked them, what do you mean by nice job? Ao Yang Hao smiled warmly. Don't worry, little sister. Liu Fu is now crippled, thanks to Wu Tian. He won't be bothering anyone again. Come on, let me take you home. Wu Tian sat beside her, his cold demeanor pretending to push her away. Go back, I'm a little tired. But Chang Kik-sin refused. Senior brother, I still have a few things to discuss with him. You can go ahead. Hearing that Chang Kik-sin didn't want to go with him, and knowing he couldn't force her, Ao Yang Hao closed his eyes and let it go. He decided to leave alone, turning toward the door. All right, he slammed the door shut with a loud bang. Chang Kik-sin returned to her seat. Wu Tian suggested that she should think about it. Honestly, he wasn't bad. It was clear he cared about her, and his family background wasn't bad either. Chang Kik-sin didn't say much more. She suddenly had an idea. Do you believe in fate? He seemed a little confused. What do you mean? I don't quite understand. Chang Kik-sin turned and began walking away. It's fine if you don't understand. I'm leaving. No need for you to walk me out, if close enough. The words close enough left Wu Tian even more puzzled. She walked out of the room and into the next one, quickly digging through her bag. She pulled out a key, unlocked the door, and went inside. In a hospital room, Wu Tian sighed and wiped the sweat off his face. He sat on the bed, dried his hands, and said, the recovery is going pretty well. Ning Sai-ki, excited, asked, at this rate, when will my grandfather fully recover? Wu Tian saw how excited she was in turn to ask, are you in such a hurry? Sai-ki's father, who was standing outside, also wanted to ask, Yi, the miracle doctor, our family is desperately hoping that the old master will recover soon. Wu Tian replied with a cryptic statement, rushing isn't always the best approach. Both of them stood there, confused, not knowing what Wu Tian meant. The doctor took the old man's hand and checked again, then explained, at the latest, within a month, the old master should be able to sit up. The two of them exchanged a look and sighed with relief. It was faster than they had expected. Wu Tian turned around and asked, "Old man, you actually have some real skills. It's just a pity your techniques aren't refined enough. You could actually speed up the process a lot more." He smiled smugly. Ning Sai-Ki then pleaded, "Really? So can you speed it up a little more?" Wu Tian didn't forget to add a condition. Half the payment, half the goods. To speed it up in 1 month will cost 10 million. If you want to go faster, you understand, right? The old man quickly ran over to cover Wu Tian's mouth and said, "You're crazy. This is just an old man scamming them for money. Do you want to get yourself killed?" The other man immediately asked, "How much do you want?" Wu Tian answered honestly without holding back, 25 million. I can get him out of bed 5 days ahead of schedule, no fake promises, no debt. Your family won't care about this small amount of money, will you? Ning Sai-Ki, feeling increasingly irritated by Wu Tian's confidence, was about to snap, but her father immediately stopped her and agreed with him. "Fine, I accept this price." Wu Tian smirked, walking towards Ning Sai-Ki. "Miss, learn a little. This is what true grandeur looks like. No need for money." With that, he walked out. Sai-Ki, fuming with anger, pressed her head against her father's chest, asking why he had agreed to such a deal, handing over 25 million so easily. Her father calmly explained, "Think of it as if we're giving the hospital 100 million. Do you think that would wake your grandfather up? What's this small amount compared to that?" Wu Tian was riding his bike, enjoying himself, whistling as he went. He noticed something approaching behind him, a car speeding toward him. He pedaled as fast as he could, cursing under his breath. "Dan, what the hell is this? A car losing control? Even if it's out of control, it shouldn't be aiming at me." The car kept tailing him, following his every move. Whenever he turned, the car turned with him, staying right behind him. Wu Tian glanced back and saw the car clearly. So they are really targeting me. Without hesitation, he jumped off his bike and dived into the bushes on the side of the road. The car chasing him was getting closer. He tried to jump inside. The driver of the vehicle quietly laughed, thinking the bike would be crushed. But then something from a distance shot towards the truck. The vehicle lost momentum and crashed straight into a nearby pole. Fortunately, both Wu Tian and the bike were fine. He let out a sigh of relief. He looked toward the truck and thought someone must have been trying to kill him. The captain quickly ran over, her face filled with concern for Wu Tian. "Are you okay? Do you need to go to the hospital for a checkup?" Wu Tian was still unharmed. He stood beside his bike and said, "I'm fine. There's a body in the car. Help me find out who sent them." She spoke firmly, her voice confident. "We know how to handle this. Don't worry. We'll get you a satisfactory answer." At that point, she hesitated, then mentioned the bank robber with a shaved head who had escaped. Hearing this, Wu Tian shouted, "What did you say? The shaved head guy escaped? Then he's definitely coming after me for revenge. How are you running things over there?" She immediately explained, "Do you think I want this? He killed one of my colleagues just to escape." Wu Tian wasn't interested and coldly added, "Serves him right. One death is already too much. With such weak security, the fact that only one person died is actually fortunate. You should be glad. If I had known you were this incompetent from the start, I wouldn't have helped you." Captain Chang, seeing his attitude, asked, "So, what do you want to do?" Wu Tian made his demand. "I want you to protect me, and I mean 24/7, staying close to me at all times. And don't forget, if something happens to me, no one will be able to treat your mother's illness." Hearing his demands, she reluctantly agreed. "Fine, I understand. I'll make this my top priority." Wu Tian entered an alley and stopped, speaking aloud, "Come out. I know you're nearby." Ning Sai-Ki appeared and walked out. "How did you know?" she asked. He explained, "I guessed. If anyone doesn't want me dead, it's definitely you. You're the ones who arranged for the sniper to protect me, right?" Sai-Ki confirmed, "Yes, that's correct. I've already sent people to investigate. We should have results soon." She continued, "On the surface, the Liu family looks the most suspicious, but I don't think Liu Tong-Wu would be clever enough to do something like this." Wu Tian thought there was some truth to her words. If it wasn't him, then who else could it be? "That's right, your old man is sick. Does anyone even know about that?" But Sai-Ki responded, saying that there were actually quite a few people who knew. So Wu Tian analyzed the situation. "If someone doesn't want your old man to wake up, they'll probably try to kill me first. As for the identity of the culprit, you need to give me a reasonable answer." Ning Sai-Ki sighed and said, I get it now." At the Yi family's villa, Grandpa asked Yi Fai-Kiao, "Sto, you're saying that Wu Tian left the nursing facility and went out?" He emphasized this information. "Is that true? Are you sure?" Yi Fai-Kiao immediately confirmed, "Yes, someone saw him leave with Wu Kunsheng." Yi Hankai quickly interrupted, "Dad, a person like him out there beating people. He even hurt Lu Fu so badly he went crazy. And there are people saying that our Yi family is bullying others just because we have power. Someone like him deserves to die. Yi Faiqiao turned to argue with him. Uncle, whether you admit it or not, he's still my brother and your younger brother. He's not a stranger. Grandpa, in a serious tone, turned to his granddaughter and asked, Faiqiao, since he's been back, how many times have you seen him? Faiqiao immediately responded, one time, he wasn't happy and didn't want to see me again, didn't want to see anyone from our family. She pointed out something strange, though. He really has changed. He even gave 29 million to Cheng Kixin. Yi Henkei stood outside, arms crossed, and added a few more words. How annoying. On the contrary, we're investigating him now. I just got a tip. Someone wants to stage an accident to kill him, but the driver was secretly ordered to protect him and was killed instead. When the grandfather heard this, he thought to himself, someone wants to stage an accident to kill Wu Tian, and to protect him, they even shot the driver. In Dongcheng, not many have the guts to fire a gun like that. Who could it be? And what kind of big shot is inside that rehab facility in the hospital? He then turned to his granddaughter and instructed Faiqiao, go ask around and gather more information about him. In his mind, he was already calculating. If Wu Tian is indeed connected to a powerful family, bringing him back to the Yi family might not be out of the question. The next day at Anna's noodle shop, Wu Tian walked in, ordered a big bowl of noodles, and ate with satisfaction. Wine Fan Si, who was sitting nearby, got noodles splattered on her face. She grumbled, can you eat a little slower? You got food all over my face. Wu Tian chewed his food slowly while talking. Look here, reporter Wang, if you want something from someone, you should invite them to a meal, but you're so thick-skinned you're asking me to treat you instead. Wang Fansai chuckled awkwardly, wiping her face with a napkin. Hey, isn't having a meal with someone as charming as me a reward in itself? Now, quickly tell me about how you were almost assassinated. That would definitely be the most interesting headline of the year. Wu Tian pointed his chopsticks at her, giving her a compliment. Your new sense is sharp. No wonder you're the daughter of the top family in Dongcheng. Everything else is good, but this topic, there's no exchange on that. Wang Fansai huffed, clearly annoyed. Narrow-minded, I even helped you advertise on the narrow sidewalk. Don't we count as friends by now? Wu Tian paid no attention to Fansai's words. He was too busy eating his noodles inside. I'm the most handsome guy in Dongcheng, so I'm sure I have my share of enemies. And with someone like you involved, I must be a target now. Before he could finish, the door opened and two people walked in, Xian Shu Hong and a girl. His face looked menacing. Wu Tian and Wang Fansai turned to look at them. Kan Shu Hong stormed over to their table and shouted, Damn it, what the hell did you do to me? The girl with him gently tried to calm him down. Shu Hong, did we agree to talk to him? Wu Tian immediately told Wang Fansi, Reporter Wang, your news has arrived. I'm the one who crashed his car. When she heard this, she was also pleased and responded warmly, That's not bad. After saying that, she took out a pen and notebook as part of her usual routine to take notes. The young woman stepped forward and greeted him. Mr. Yi, hello, I'm Lu Shenyu. Sorry to bother you. Wu Tian politely greeted her in return, Miss Lu. I'm not sure what brings you here today. Although he said that, in his mind, he couldn't help but think, I never imagined Tian Shu Hong would have a mother like her. If anything were to happen between us, it would probably drive that guy crazy. Lu Shenyu spoke gently, Mr. Yi, you're such a smooth talker. I'm already past my prime, so don't call me miss. Wu Tian continued staring at Lu Shenyu's figure, and when Kan Shu Hong saw his actions, he yelled angrily, You bastard, stop staring at my mom like that. If you don't watch out, I'll chop you to pieces. Tell me, what exactly did you do to me? Wu Tian ignored his words completely. Lu Shenyu then calmly handed him a check. Mr. Yi, today I've brought my good-for-nothing son here to apologize to you. I hope you can give him a chance. This check is for the money you were owed for the car accident. Please accept it. He took the check with a slightly smug look on his face. 7 million. This is 500,000 more than what was owed before. It looks like you're really serious about this. So what's your game plan? Lu Shenyu was upfront and said everything clearly. My son hasn't been acting normal these past 2 days. Last night, while he was sleeping soundly, he suddenly started screaming and thrashing around. After hearing this, Wu Tian coldly replied, Is this really happening? Let me tell you something, Mrs. Lu. If your son is experiencing this kind of behavior, why do you need to bring him to me instead of taking him to the hospital? Kan Shu Hong immediately stormed forward and started yelling, What's this act, Yi? Didn't you lay hands on me before? I already paid you. What more do you want? Wu Tian laughed. Thanks for the praise. I didn't realize I meant so much to you. But, unfortunately, this has nothing to do with me. You'd better head to the hospital. Lu Shenyu grabbed his hand and pleaded, Mr. Yi, I've heard you were very capable. I'm wondering if you could do me a small favor and let my son off the hook? He firmly refused. Mrs. Liu, I really have nothing to do with this. If I were involved, I wouldn't deny it. You should try asking someone else. After saying that, Wu Tian stood up and turned to Wang Fan Si. Let's go. Before Wang Fan Si could gather his things, he hurriedly followed them. Wait a minute. The two women, Qian Shu Hong and Lu Shenyu, stood there watching them leave. Qian Shu Hong then asked, Mom, are we just going to let them walk away like that? Lu Shenyu wasn't sure what to do either. Let's go home first. I'll think of another way. He immediately held his head as if he were about to lose his mind, but when it was time to go to sleep again that night, he said, Mom, I really don't want to think about sleeping again. I don't want to dream anymore. Lu Shenyu gently patted his head and comforted him. Don't worry, I'll definitely find a way to get him to help you.